Chapter 1685. Yi Qianqian's smile deepened as she replied, "Grandpa, I'm happy." Yi Zhenhua didn't say anything when he saw that. He turned into the kitchen to cook. She didn't know what Shenjilia was doing outside, but Yi Qianqian couldn't find him. In the end, Shenjilia came out on his own with a bag in his hand. The black bag looked like it belonged to her. "What's this?" "Something." "Nonsense." Yi Qianqian rolled her eyes at him in annoyance. She reached for it and quickly fished out a passport. She rummaged through it, but before she could take anything out, Shenjilia stopped her and said, "Stop looking. Go and help your father." "I can't help." "You go. Lazy woman." Shenjilia shoved the bag at her and turned to walk to the kitchen. Yi Qianqian made a face at him and immediately went into the room with the bag. She started rummaging through it. In the end, she found a pile of documents and a mess of certificates. Some of the names were so obscure that Yi Qianqian couldn't even understand them. She had no choice but to stuff everything back into the bag. Then, she collapsed on the bed and played with her phone. She went on Baidu and found a bunch of travel guides for Venice. From accommodation to sightseeing, Yi Qianqian found everything. Yi Zhenhua quickly finished cooking, but Yi Qianqian was still playing with her phone. When she went out, Shenjilia was wearing an apron, and Yi Zhenhua was responsible for bringing the dishes out. When Yi Qianqian saw that, she had a bad feeling about this. She asked, could it be that today's dishes were made by Shenjilia? When Yi Zhenhua heard that, he smiled and praised, "You don't say. Your little boyfriend's cooking is really good. It looks, smells, and tastes good. Just from the looks alone, he's much better than your father's. No matter how good he is, he can't eat it every day." Yi Qianqian's face fell. She put her phone away and went forward to look around. She quickly perked up and said, "These must be made by Dad." Yi Zhenhua nodded. "I made them. You're already cooked." "Of course." Yi Qianqian wanted to sit down as she spoke, but Shenjilia quickly stopped her and said, "Go wash your hands." Yi Qianqian pouted unhappily but quickly headed for the kitchen. After she washed her hands, she realized that Shenjilia had put in a lot of effort that day. The taste and appearance were more than twice as good as usual. Yi Qianqian noticed the small difference and glanced at Shenjilia. Shenjilia raised his eyebrows proudly and asked, "What do you think?" "Not bad, not bad." It had been a long time since Yi Qianqian made fun of him. "You can try something new in the future." "All right." Yi Zhenhua glanced at them and chuckled. He then began to chat with Shenjilia. As he talked, he went on and on about Chiang Kai-shek during the Republic of China period. Yi Qianqian was bored out of her mind. After dinner, she chased them away from the table and went to wash the dishes. After washing the dishes, Yi Qianqian mopped the floor and cleaned the living room and kitchen. More than 2 hours had passed, and the two fellows still hadn't finished talking. Yi Qianqian took a shower and returned to her room to play with her cell phone. In her boredom, she began to watch television. Just like that, he lost track of time. It was around 1 in the morning when he felt sleepy. When he got out of bed and went out, it was already dark outside. His footsteps were light, and he could vaguely see a spark at the foot of the sofa. It was a mosquito coil. Chapter 1686. The sudden voice gave Yi Qianqian a fright. Her whole body trembled. She immediately reacted and growled in a low voice, "You scared me to death." Shenjilia turned over from the sofa. His upper body was bare, and he looked very cool. He looked at Yi Qianqian and walked toward her with the light from his phone. Yi Qianqian stomped her feet and said, "I'm going to the bathroom. I'm not going to talk to you." "Okay." Yi Qianqian felt that the atmosphere was a little strange, and she felt a little uncomfortable. The surroundings were dark, and the lights were not on. There was a faint smell of mugwort in the air. It was quite pleasant. When she heard Shenjilia's response, Yi Qianqian used the light from her phone and walked toward the bathroom. After she went to the bathroom, she walked out and saw Shinjilia sitting on a stone bench in the yard. Yi Qianqian walked toward him and sat down beside him. Can't sleep? A little. Maybe a little excited. Shinjilia's voice was calm. He turned to look at Yi Qianqian. Your father seems to like me. Yi Qianqian felt even more uncomfortable when he mentioned that. She looked away and explained, this is the first time I've brought a boyfriend home. He would think it's good even if I brought a pig. You don't know how worried he is that I won't get married. He was so worried that he almost asked Fang Tongtong's mother to set me up on a blind date. As she spoke, she turned her head. The air in the small place was not overly polluted, and the moonlight on a summer night was especially bright. Under the hazy moonlight, Yi Qianqian clearly saw Shinjilia looking at her at that moment. Her heart skipped a beat. Yi Qianqian shrank back and coughed softly. Fang Tongtong is the girl you saw today. She's my best friend since I was young. She's my bestie. Yeah, I can see that you have a good relationship. Yes, but in recent years, we've been apart more than together. If it were in the past, we could have just fought. Shinjilia's lips curled up, and he responded in a low voice. His low voice was indescribably sexy. Yi Qianqian couldn't stand it anymore. Her heart seemed to be installed with a motor. It accelerated and couldn't stop. If this continued, she was afraid that she would suddenly die. Standing up, Yi Qianqian pretended to yawn and said, I'm tired. We'll talk tomorrow. Go to sleep. Qianqian. Huh? Yi Qianqian looked down at him. He suddenly reached out and squeezed her hand. It was like a feather gently stroking the bottom of his heart. Yi Qianqian's face heated up even more. She looked at him and took a step back. What was he trying to do? Could it be that he wanted to kiss her? It's so late, it's pitch black, a man and a woman alone. As Yi Qianqian's mind continued to wander, Shinjilia suddenly let go of her hand. Good night, I'll sit a little longer. That's it? That's it? Yi Qianqian suddenly felt unwell. That was it? Yi Qianqian heaved a sigh of relief. She didn't say a word. She turned around and strode toward her room. Damn, silly man. Her footsteps were a little heavy. Shinjilia stared at her back, and the smile on his face deepened. Then, she turned her head and looked at the moon above her head, her clear eyes filled with satisfaction. Yi Qianqian had no idea that she had fallen into Shinjilia's trap. Her heart felt empty. She lay down on the bed and pulled the blanket over her head. She stomped her foot on the bed angrily and almost went out to strangle him. Chapter 1687. However, Shinjilia's small action caused Yi Qianqian to suffer from insomnia for most of the night. When Yi Zhenhua woke her up, she was in a daze. Qianqian, your boyfriend is still here. Get up for breakfast. Yi Qianqian covered her head and shouted, I'm not eating. I want to sleep. Yi Zhenhua heard Yi Qianqian's voice from outside and chuckled helplessly. This child is already so big, yet she's still lazing in bed. It's okay. Let her sleep. We may be returning to Kingstown in a while. Let her sleep enough so that she won't get carsick. Don't spoil her too much. I know this girl all too well. She bullies the weak and fears the strong. If you treat her well, she'll be cocky. If you treat her fiercely, I guarantee that she won't have any temper. Shinjilia laughed. I see. I'll try it next time. When Yi Zhenhua heard that, he felt that something was wrong. Was he teaching this outsider to bully his daughter? That wouldn't do. After thinking for a moment, he said, but don't go overboard. This girl will hold a grudge. I won't give her a chance to hold a grudge. When Yi Zhenhua heard Shinjilia's words, he was more and more satisfied with him. He smiled and lowered his head to eat. Yi Qianqian slept until noon. She didn't wake up until midnight. When she saw the time, she suddenly got up. When she went out, they were making lunch. Yi Qianqian knew that something was wrong. She sneaked into the bathroom, washed up, and went out for a walk. When she saw that she was a little more awake, she sneaked home and pretended that she had woken up long ago. "Daddy, I'm back." Yi Zhenhua didn't know when she had gone out. He looked at her and asked curiously, "I thought you were sleeping. Where did you go?" "Humph, am I that kind of person? I went out to play. Can we eat now?" Shenjilia glanced at her and said, "I saw you sneak out and come back in less than 5 minutes. Yi Qianqian said, "You saw wrong." Shenjilia's smile widened. He prepared the meal and took it out. "Yeah, I saw wrong. Go wash your hands." Yi Qianqian glared at him fiercely and dawdled to wash her hands. After dinner, Shenjilia said that he was going back to Kingstown. After Yi Qianqian bade farewell to Fang Tongtong, she instructed Shenjilia to drive the sleazy lemon-yellow Maserati back in a flashy manner. Along the way, many people turned to look at them, especially Xia Yilin. When she saw them from afar, she gritted her teeth in anger. Yi Qianqian had slept for too long. She spent the entire 2-hour drive chatting with Shenjilia. By the time they reached Connecticut, it was already close to evening. The two of them packed their luggage and prepared the things that needed to be prepared. Yi Qianqian was extremely excited. He only fell asleep after suffering from insomnia for most of the night. The next day, he went to the airport early in the morning. It took him 11 hours to arrive in Venice. The weather in Venice was similar to that in Kingstown. As soon as Yi Qianqian arrived, all the cells in her body became active. He carried his luggage and ran outside, shouting, "Hurry up, hurry up." Shenjilia had no choice but to catch up with her. He jogged along the way and said, "Slow down. What's the rush?" Yi Qianqian had always yearned for the city. It was a city that was surrounded by water. It was romantic, gentle, mysterious, and magical. Chapter 1688. Yi Qianqian had been longing for such a dream for a long time. Shenjilia knew how excited she was. He quickly stepped forward to hold her hand and said, "Don't wander off. Hey, hurry up." Yi Qianqian tugged at Shenjilia, but her grip was too steady. She couldn't move at all. Yi Qianqian tugged a few times but couldn't pull him back, so she gave up. She obediently allowed Shenjilia to pull her out of the airport. Soon, they were out of the airport. Yi Qianqian had already done a lot of research before she arrived. After looking around, she pulled Shenjilia to the bus stop. There were many people on the water bus, so it took a long time, but it was much cheaper. On the other hand, the water taxi took less time, but it was more than 10 times more expensive. After Yi Qianqian explained it to Shenjilia, she pulled him into the bus without hesitation. After buying the ticket, Yi Qianqian chose a seat by the window and sat down. Looking outside, there were quite a lot of people. People came and went with their suitcases, and the bus was soon full. Shenjilia sat next to her and leaned over to look out. He said, "It's full of people now. You should be able to see it when we get out." "Humph," Yi Qianqian looked out and said with some satisfaction, "It's not beautiful now. It's all water. If you want to see something beautiful, you have to go to the main island. I heard that there are many beautiful women there, and it's especially fun." Shenjilia replied, "I booked a suite on the higher floor. It should be more beautiful if you look down." "A suite?" Yi Qianqian turned her head, but when she did, she suddenly found Shenjilia was right next to her face. When she turned her head, Shenjilia's face was inches away from hers. Yi Qianqian's heart suddenly skipped a beat, and she was momentarily stunned. Shenjilia looked at her deeply, and the corners of his lips curled up. He then gently pecked her lips and said, "Yes, a sweet." Yi Qianqian's face burned inch by inch, and she said, "You. Why did you come so close out of nowhere? You scared me to death." Shenjilia raised his eyebrows slightly, and with his hand, he said, "I think you're shy. Why is your face so red?" "Hey," Yi Qianqian glared at him and immediately pushed him away, saying, "Go to hell. Civilization, civilization, do you understand?" You can't embarrass your motherland in a foreign country. You're right, but I'm not going to listen to you. Yi Qianqian said matter-of-factly. F*CKU. F*CKU. Go away. Shinjilia didn't know what to do with her, so he wrapped his arms around her and said, be quiet. Everyone's looking at us. Yi Qianqian puffed up her cheeks and looked around. When she found that a few people were looking at her, she said, so what? Let go of me. It's so hot. Don't hug me. It's not hot. I'm hot. Shinjilia refused to let go of her. He pointed outside and said, look over there. Yi Qianqian turned her head and saw a beautiful boat sailing past. It looked dreamy and romantic. It looked just like a Disney princess. Yi Qianqian's eyes lit up when she saw it. Her eyes followed him closely, as if she had completely forgotten that she was being hugged by a man. Yi Qianqian leaned against the window and looked at the blue and fresh water world outside. She felt satisfied and exclaimed, it's great here. Ah! If we reach the main island, I'm going to rent a boat. Renting a boat is no problem. May I ask who's going to drive it? Of course it's going to be you. Do you even need to ask? Yi Qianqian said matter-of-factly. Why else do you think I brought you out? Humph. So I'm here to do odd jobs for you? Take your time. I'm going to leave now. Sure. Leave the suite behind for me. I'll stay by myself. How can I do that? I'm still worried about you being alone. Sigh, forget it. I'll just risk my life to accompany you. Chapter 1689. Yi Qianqian's question hit the nail on the head. Shinjilia frowned and thought for a moment before replying, it should be. What do you mean it should be? Don't you know how many rooms you've booked? Yi Qianqian pinched his hand and said, you're stuttering. Don't tell me there's only one room? Bingo, there was indeed only one room. Looking at Yi Qianqian's expression, Shinjilia suddenly felt that he was in trouble. He thought for a moment and explained, I didn't book only one room on purpose. After all, I'm not familiar with Venice. I have a friend who runs a tour group. He knows that I might have high standards for the environment, so he booked the best hotel in Venice for me, and it's in the best location. Wow, really? Yi Qianqian's eyes lit up. Does it mean that it's especially beautiful when you look at it? Of course. It's beautiful. Shinjilia secretly heaved a sigh of relief and said, think about it. Venice is such a big city. The best place must be of a high class. It'll definitely be very comfortable. So, you only booked one room? Wasn't he trying to divert her attention with all these twists and turns? Yi Qianqian could immediately tell what he was trying to do. Shinjilia cursed in his heart. He blinked and didn't say anything. His attitude was tantamount to tacit approval. Yi Qianqian snorted and turned her head away. She didn't say anything either and turned her head to look out the window. Shinjilia was ready to face the storm, but Yi Qianqian's attitude seemed a little different from what he had imagined. Did she just accept the fact that there was only one room for the two of them? Shinjilia's heart was uneasy. He followed her gaze and looked out the window. It was a rare moment of silence. There were all kinds of people on the bus. Languages from different countries were mixed together, and it was very lively. When they arrived at their destination, Shinjilia used the GPS and asked for directions before they reached the hotel they had booked. It was indeed the best place in Venice. Just the grandeur of the entrance made Yi Qianqian feel very small. They showed their passports and registered their identities. Soon, they were brought to their rooms by the service staff. The so-called suite was a set of rooms. There was a bedroom, a living room, a kitchen, and a refrigerator. Yi Qianqian had never stayed in such a high-class hotel before. She casually placed her luggage in a corner and walked into the bathroom. Shinjilia glanced around. There was a sofa, a room, and a sofa inside the room. The surroundings. So, he might be destined to sleep on the sofa. He went to the room, but there was only a 2-meter long and 2-meter wide bed. There was no place for him at all, Shinjilia sighed. He felt that he had a bitter life. Venice, one of the most romantic places in the world. Gentle water villages, gentlemanly and romantic Italian men, this is the yearning of almost every woman. Yi Qianqian and Shinjilia rented a small boat, and the two of them leisurely shuttled through the alley. Blue water and blue sky. Faint water vapor floated in the air. It was somewhat romantic and wet. When it landed on his body, he was filled with the aura of happiness. It's so beautiful. Yi Qianqian looked at her surroundings, and her eyes were intoxicated. I love it here, Shinjilia. You like it that much? Yes. I like it. Chapter 1690. When she heard that, Yi Qianqian turned her head. Shinjilia seemed to have said it casually and didn't look at her. When he sensed her gaze, he turned his head. Yi Qianqian pouted and turned her head away with a look of disgust. You're so shameless. Who wants to have a wedding with you? Yi Qianqian. Yi Qianqian turned her head. What? Yi Qianqian wants to have a wedding with me. The smile on Shinjilia's face widened. There was a hint of longing on his exquisite and beautiful face. There will be such a day. The golden sunlight shone on his face, and it seemed to be plated with a layer of golden light. In the distance, the church bell rang softly and slowly. It was sacred and slow, accompanied by the pious singing of the believers. Everything was too beautiful to be true. Yi Qianqian stared at Shinjilia for a long time, and her face grew hotter and hotter. She said, It's too early to say that. It's not early. Look at how old you are. You're a 26-year-old woman, and you're still unmarried. Isn't it embarrassing? In an instant, all the good things had been fed to the dogs. Yi Qianqian clenched her fists and gritted her teeth. She turned her head and roared, Shinjilia. Aren't you also 27 years old? It's not like you're walking around with 2 screaming children. What's there to be proud of? When Shinjilia saw that, he turned his head away in disgust. Screaming is for leopards and tigers. How can a human child scream like that? How uncultured. Pfft. You know so much. If you have the guts, bring me a couple. Here. Shinjilia pointed to a boat not far away. Yi Qianqian followed Shinjilia's finger and saw a family of 3. The blonde baby was lying at the stern of the boat and looking at the two of them. When Shinjilia pointed at him, he giggled and waved at them. Yi Qianqian was infected by his smile, and her heart softened. She said, Hello. The parents on the other side seemed to notice them. They picked up the baby and waved at them to teach him how to speak. Yi Qianqian couldn't understand Italian at all. But when she saw them laughing, she smiled and waved at them. Do you know what they're talking about? Why are you laughing? Shinjilia leaned over and wrapped his arm around Yi Qianqian's waist as he waved at the child. The parents looked at each other. Soon after, the husband and wife said something to each other, and then they laughed together. She turned her head to look at Shinjilia and asked, What are they laughing at? They're probably laughing at us for pretending to be friendly and greeting them even though we don't understand them. I don't think so. I think they might think that we 2 Asians look good. He leaned over and called out, Yi Qianqian. How can your skin be so thick? Yi Qianqian glared at him and pinched his hand. You're rebelling. Ouch. Shinjilia wailed. It hurts. It hurts. Serves you right. The child in front of her laughed even louder. Yi Qianqian turned her head to take a look. Feeling a little embarrassed, she shouted, Look! The child is laughing at you. Shinjilia reached out and pulled her face toward him. He planted a kiss on her lips and said, You're the one who's laughing. Yi Qianqian was suddenly kissed. She pushed him away and said, We're on the street, and there are children. It's okay. This is Italy. Children are used to it. Chapter 1691. It's not that easy, Shinjilia said as he caught a glimpse of a charming building. He pointed to it and said, let's get on land. There were many unique streets in Venice. The most famous one was the shopping street. Yi Qianqian and Shinjilia shopped around. Yi Qianqian bought a few unique and beautiful things and began to feel sleepy. She looked at the time and saw that it was only 5:00 in the afternoon. Shinjilia, let's go eat. We'll go back to sleep after eating. Hungry? Hungry and sleepy. Shinjilia looked at her and agreed. He took her back to the hotel. There were many good food and fun places near the hotel. After eating and drinking, Yi Qianqian had no more energy to play. She was extremely sleepy. She looked at the time. It was 8:00 in the evening. In other words, it was already 1:00 in the morning in China. She didn't sleep much on the plane. No wonder she was so sleepy. Yi Qianqian went back, found some clothes, and took a shower. Then, she lay down on the bed and ignored Shinjilia. After Shinjilia finished his shower, he looked at the sofa and then the room. He frowned deeply. He looked around and was a little hesitant. He didn't want to sleep on the sofa. It was too unfair to be a director. But if he slept in the room, would Yi Qianqian hit him when she woke up? It was fine if she hit him, but would it be awkward when they met again in the future? Shinjilia hesitated again and again, but in the end, he didn't dare to go up. He obediently slept on the sofa in the living room, but he felt uncomfortable all over. Yi Qianqian slept until midnight and wanted to go to the bathroom. The bathroom was outside the living room, and there was no bathroom in the room. Yi Qianqian walked out and saw Shinjilia sleeping on the sofa with his legs up in the air. The temperature in the room was a little low. Shinjilia was only wearing a singlet and no quilt. His breathing was steady. Yi Qianqian shivered just walking out. What's more, Shinjilia had slept there for so long. But after looking around, she didn't find anything like a blanket. Finally, Yi Qianqian found that the air conditioning in the room could be adjusted, so she walked out with a quilt. It was the only quilt in the room, and it was big and heavy. Yi Qianqian was struggling to carry it. She walked slowly to the living room before she carried the blanket out and placed it aside. She was panting from the burden of the blanket. As expected of a 5-star hotel, even the quality of the blankets was so thick. She had been busy for half a day, but the dead man had no intention of waking up. Yi Qianqian felt a little angry. She flung the blanket and covered him with it. Shinjilia was sleeping soundly. When he was suddenly awakened, he was startled awake. Then, he flipped over and almost fell down. It was only when he focused his eyes that he saw Yi Qianqian. Between him and Yi Qianqian was a huge pile of blankets. Shinjilia sat up and patted his head. What's wrong? To cover you with a blanket. Yi Qianqian's heart was filled with resentment. Do you know how heavy this blanket is? Shinjilia could feel it firsthand. He reached out and weighed it in his hand. He nodded and said, it's quite heavy. Yi Qianqian snorted and stomped back to her room. Her only blanket was gone. She had no choice but to adjust the temperature in the room to 28 degrees before lying down. Shinjilia stood outside. He looked down at the blanket and blinked. That's not right, it's really not right. If the blanket was given to her, then what was she going to do? Chapter 1692. Yi Qianqian had just laid down when she heard a knock on the door. Shinjilia held a thick blanket in his arms and looked at the door. After knocking twice, he retracted his hand. What was he trying to do? She instinctively wanted to knock on the door, but what would she do after that? Just as Shinjilia was considering letting it go, the door to the room opened. Yi Qianqian looked at Shinjilia and especially at the blanket. She blinked and asked, what's up? Well, you gave me the blanket. What are you going to sleep on? I'll sleep on the bed. I'll just adjust the air conditioning in the room a little higher. It'll be fine. That won't do. There's no use in raising the temperature of the air conditioning. No blanket means no blanket. What if you catch a cold when you sleep like this? How could I catch a cold so easily? Yi Qianqian thought silently. When she saw Shenjilia's expression, she suddenly remembered the consequences of not drying her hair and catching a cold the last time. She silently swallowed the words that were on the tip of her tongue and said, "It should be fine. Won't you catch a cold easily outside?" Shenjilia's heart skipped a beat. He suddenly had a bold idea. He stared at her and couldn't bring himself to say it in the end. He looked down at the blanket and said, "I'm a man. It'll be fine. I'll help you put the blanket in. It's quite heavy." Yi Qianqian was speechless. What a stubborn man. She had already said that. Couldn't he just go with the flow and say something else? Why did he have to think about a blanket like that? Yi Qianqian was a little annoyed. She really wanted to break open his head to see if it was filled with glue or water. Shenjilia gritted his teeth and turned away. After putting the blanket on the bed, he was in no hurry to leave. He slowly unfolded the blanket and spread it again. The process took a full minute. Yi Qianqian felt a little uncomfortable. She stood by the door for a while before gently closing it. She glanced at Shenjilia and realized that he wasn't paying attention to her. Her heart skipped a beat. She felt guilty for doing something bad. She took a few steps forward and threw herself on the bed. Yi Qianqian lifted the blanket and crawled in. "I'm going to sleep," she said. Shenjilia felt a little defeated when he saw that. When he turned his head, he saw that the door had already been closed. He was stunned. Then, Shenjilia realized that Yi Qianqian was sleeping on the other side of the bed instead. What does that mean? The bold idea in Shenjilia's mind became more and more turbulent, and his heart beat faster and faster. In the end, Shenjilia held his breath. Slowly and stealthily, he lifted the blanket and laid down. A sense of guilt, as if he had done something wrong, instantly engulfed him. However, when he heard the soft breathing sound next to him, he felt an indescribable joy and satisfaction in his heart. He quietly moved over and got closer. Very good." Yi Qianqian did not respond. Shenjilia gently turned around and looked at the back of her head. He took a deep breath and clearly smelled the faint fragrance on her body. Yi Qianqian's eyes were tightly shut. When she sensed his approach, her entire body tensed up. However, when she sensed that he wasn't getting any closer, she felt a faint sense of defeat. Blockhead. Sigh, how did she end up with such a boyfriend? If she hadn't closed the door, this guy wouldn't have dared to lie down. Did he want her to take the initiative? Pooh. Chapter 1693. Perhaps he hadn't gotten over his role yet. As Yi Qianqian thought about it, she became more and more energetic. There was still no movement behind her. Slowly, she turned around. Shenjilia appeared a little reserved. He shrank into a corner and didn't overstep. The distance between them was the width of a pillow. At that moment, Shenjilia had already fallen asleep and was breathing evenly. Yi Qianqian relaxed. She closed her eyes and quickly fell asleep. When he sensed that she had fallen asleep, Shenjilia opened his eyes again. He slowly approached her and gently hugged her shoulders. It was a dreamless night. Venice was 6 hours later than China. Before the sun rose, Yi Qianqian had already woken up naturally. When she opened her eyes, she saw Shenjilia's face right in front of her. Yi Qianqian was startled, and her body trembled slightly. The small commotion woke Shenjilia up with a start. When he saw that she had obviously just woken up, he gently released her and stretched his back. Morning. Yi Qianqian got up with a start and got out of bed. She quickly opened the door and ran out. Shenjilia chuckled. He was in a good mood. Her warmth was still on his hands, and her scent was still on the bed. It felt good. Shenjilia slowly got up and put on his slippers to walk out. Yi Qianqian had already hidden herself in the bathroom. She looked at herself. There was no eye wax, no saliva, and no bad breath. Very good, Yi Qianqian breathed a sigh of relief. Her heart felt as if it had been bitten by ants. It itched and she was extremely happy. Lying on the same bed for one night, rounding it up, would be considered as having had sex. This was a breakthrough development. Good. Yi Qianqian hummed a little tune as she began to wash up. The corners of her mouth couldn't help but curl up. Her joy was self-evident. When she went out, Shenjilia was on the phone. From his tone, he seemed to be talking to an elder at home. When he saw Yi Qianqian, Shenjilia suddenly broke into a bright smile and said, "Grandma, she's here. I'll put her on the phone." Yi Qianqian was stunned. She blinked and pointed to herself. "Your grandma?" "My grandma heard that I went overseas with my girlfriend and wanted to talk to you for a while." His grandma. Wasn't she the old lady who had bullied Yu so badly? She was very nervous, but since Shenjilia had already said so, she couldn't refuse. With a bitter expression, Yi Qianqian took it and said in a fawning manner, "Hello, Grandma." When old Mrs. Shen heard the young girl's voice, she was overjoyed. She smiled brightly and laughed amiably. "Hey! Are you Qianqian? Gosh, I keep hearing Jilia mention you. This is the first time he's so interested in a girl. I thought he was going to be single for the rest of his life. It's all thanks to you, Qianqian." "Ha!" Yi Qianqian giggled. She didn't know what else to say. She looked at Shenjilia for help. Shenjilia's smile deepened. He took the phone from her and said, "Grandma, I'm shy. I can't talk to you anymore. We're going to have breakfast." When old Mrs. Shen heard this, she instinctively glanced at the time. It was already past noon. There must be a story behind this. Could it be that this brat was already conscious enough to start cooking? Chapter 1694. When Shenjilia heard that, he subconsciously glanced at Yi Qianqian. Yi Qianqian heard a little of it and blushed. Shenjilia immediately said with a straight face, "Grandma, what are you thinking? We are very serious. It's only 6:00 in Venice. Let's go for breakfast." "Huh? There's still a time difference?" The disappointment in old Mrs. Shen's voice was obvious. "You might as well sleep until midnight. If the young lady is willing to travel with you alone, it means she's willing to be with you. Do whatever you want. Don't suppress your nature, young man." This time, it wasn't just Yi Qianqian. Even Shenjilia felt his face heat up. He coughed awkwardly and said, "You're too old. I'm hanging up." Old Mrs. Shen's words were very straightforward. Shenjilia blushed a little. Yi Qianqian pretended not to hear and turned around. "I'm going to get changed." Then, he walked into the room. He was very fast. Shenjilia couldn't help but recall what his grandmother had just said. If the young lady is willing to travel with you alone, it means she's willing to be with you. That was the logic, but would it really work when it came to Yi Qianqian? Shenjilia began to have doubts. After washing up, Shenjilia changed into a fresh set of clothes and went to enjoy an Italian breakfast. After breakfast, Yi Qianqian dragged Shenjilia to the church. There was a church in Venice that was said to have the most history in all of Italy, St. Mark's Basilica. Yi Qianqian walked around and saw the history of St. Mark's Basilica. The history was laid out in front of her. Yi Qianqian found it a little strange and secretly clicked her tongue. "You can search the history on Baidu. I won't post it. I don't want to be accused of making up the number of words." After reading it, Yi Qianqian's heart was filled with emotion. How could this work? Shenjilia was much calmer and said, "This church won't do." "What? You can't get married in this kind of church." He looked so serious that Yi Qianqian thought he was going to say something serious. When she heard that, Yi Qianqian said, "Of course the marriage should be done in China. How can you get married abroad?" "Well, that makes sense." Shenjilia put his arm around her shoulder and said, "I actually think so too. Go, lackey. I'm being serious." Shenjilia put his arm around her shoulder and said in a frivolous manner, actually, I like Chinese weddings. My grandmother is quite superstitious. She always thinks of herself as a demigod. You know, this has to do with our ancient Chinese traditions. My grandmother actually rejected church weddings. Pfft, Yi Qianqian had heard Yi Yuyu mention the phrase, half-fairy, before. He also heard that this old lady sometimes looked a little frivolous, but in fact, she was very mysterious. Especially since he had said that Yi Yuyu was destined to marry twice. In the past, when Yi Yuyu and Shen Luo were still together, Yi Qianqian had scoffed at it. However, after witnessing Yi Yuyu's divorce from Shen Luo and her marriage to Li Jinnan, Yi Qianqian didn't dare to underestimate her anymore. It was better to believe that it was true than not. Chapter 1695. You really didn't go? Really? Shenjilia nodded his head. But in the end, the wedding didn't go through, and that incident even happened. Yi Qianqian nodded her head. She suddenly thought of something and said, Your grandmother is so mysterious. Couldn't she have predicted that Guan Kui would cause trouble at the wedding? If your grandmother had known earlier, this wouldn't have happened, and your brother wouldn't have spent so much time in jail for nothing. I've already said that she's a demigod. A demigod is unpredictable. If she could predict everything, wouldn't she be an immortal? That's true. Has your grandmother ever told you when you're going to get married? No. It's weird. She always predicted the fate of others, but she never predicted the fate of our family. Yi Qianqian felt her hair stand on end. I think it's true. Besides, doesn't fortune-telling differentiate between close and distant relatives? It's normal for people like you, who are directly related by blood, to be unable to predict it. The secrets of heaven cannot be revealed. Shenjilia looked surprised and said, Wow, you're quite perceptive. When you meet my grandmother later, she'll probably put you under her wing. Pfft. I don't want to be a charlatan. Haha. I'm hungry. Let's go eat. Shenjilia held Yi Qianqian in his arms and went to a random restaurant on the street. Most restaurants in Italy were more elegant. Even the waiters were very good-looking. They were all tall and strong, with blonde hair and blue eyes. They were so handsome that they could make one's eyes water. Yi Qianqian's eyes were glued to them. Her soul almost left her body. As Shenjilia ate, he said, Don't be fooled by their good looks. They're actually here to trick you into spending money. Sure enough, his words came true. Very quickly, a handsome young man sensed Yi Qianqian's gaze and walked over to her. In English, he asked, Beautiful lady, would you like a drink? Yi Qianqian was intoxicated by the sight and asked, What drinks do you have? Shenjilia's expression darkened. He said, No, thank you. He reached out to pat Yi Qianqian and said, What's there to look at? Stop looking. Yi Qianqian ignored him. She swatted his hand away and said, Ignore him. The handsome young man smiled elegantly and politely introduced himself. Yi Qianqian moved closer and closer to him, her eyes fixed on his face. Shenjilia's face darkened. Yi Qianqian. Yi Qianqian acted as if she hadn't seen it and asked, Oh, I don't know. Tell me, what's good to drink? Our signature drink is the appointment of romance, 50 euros a cup. Would you like one? 50 euros. F***CK. This is daylight robbery. Shenjilia tugged at Yi Qianqian and said, It's almost $400. Are you going to buy it? Yi Qianqian was shocked when she heard the price. She blinked and asked, So expensive? The handsome young man chuckled and said, It's as beautiful as you. Beautiful things are worth everything to have. Oh dear, Yi Qianqian's heart was about to melt. When she saw his mesmerizing smile, she reached out a finger and said, Can I have a glass? Sure. Please wait for a moment. The handsome young man quickly walked away. When Yi Qianqian turned her head, she saw that Shenjilia's face had darkened. Yi Qianqian had never seen such an expression on Shenjilia's face before. She coughed lightly and said guiltily, well, I just wanted to experience what a $400 drink tastes like. Chapter 1696. No, you misunderstand me. I really just want to try a drink that costs more than $400. Yi Qianqian looked at Shenjilie with a serious expression and said, have you ever tried a drink that costs $400? Shenjilie saw her serious expression and pursed his lips in silence. After a long time, he finally calmed down and said, good-looking men are just trying to fool you. Stay away from good-looking men in the future. I won't. There's an exception. Yi Qianqian looked at him and smiled flatteringly. You see, aren't you very nice to me? Shenjilie couldn't keep a straight face after being praised so abruptly, but he had to keep a straight face. Holding back his laughter, he said, there's only one person in the world. Everyone else, stay away from me. Okay. When Yi Qianqian saw that he was no longer angry, she giggled and ate a mouthful of noodles. She said, but this drink is really expensive. I don't know what it looks like, but it costs $400. My heart aches. Do you regret it? Yes. Yi Qianqian nodded pitifully. Shenjilie snorted softly. You're not too stupid after all. Since you want it, just keep it. Anyway, it's a rare opportunity. As long as you're happy. Yi Qianqian looked at Shenjilie in front of her and put her palms together. She was touched and said, Shenjilie, you're an angel. Go away. Stop being disgusting. Eat your food. Yi Qianqian chuckled and lowered her head to eat obediently. After all, she was in the wrong in the first place. A wise man submits to circumstances. It's always good to have a good attitude. However, after they ate for a while, they saw the handsome young man return. Hello, Mississippi. Yi Qianqian saw the tall and straight figure, and her eyes were once again intoxicated. She said, you're back. The handsome young man nodded gracefully and said, please sign your name here. May I ask, what is the relationship between you and this person? As he spoke, he pointed to Shenjilie. Shenjilie's expression didn't look too good from the moment the waiter appeared. When he heard the question, he spoke first and said calmly, I'm her boyfriend. The waiter immediately understood and asked, are the two of you from Huaxia? Yes. May I know your surname? Shen, her surname is Yi. The waiter nodded and began to explain, sir, your girlfriend's purchase of the Covenant of Romance has taken effect. Both of you have a 5-year agreement with our restaurant. As he spoke, the handsome boy took out 2 key rings. The key ring was exquisitely made, and the name of the restaurant was engraved on it. Today, 5 years later, you might have married this lady and given birth to a cute baby, or maybe you two aren't together, but we will keep this memory for you. When the time comes, you can show us this key card. This will be a very romantic agreement. Yi Qianqian took the key card and suddenly understood. That's why it's called a romantic engagement. Yes, miss, I am willing to wait for your beauty in this place for 5 years. 5 years later, you and I will have a completely new appearance. The handsome young man was elegant and gentlemanly as he gently extended his hand. Such a noble and beautiful gesture melted Yi Qianqian's heart. He reached out and gently placed his hand on hers. The handsome boy immediately bent down. But before he could kiss her, a hand stopped him in the middle. When he turned around, Shenjilie's expression didn't look too good. He said, Huaxia people don't like it when other men kiss their women. Dash. Chapter 1697. When the handsome young man heard Shenjilie's possessive words, he immediately smiled and apologized, I'm sorry, sir. When it comes to beautiful things, people can't help themselves. Yi Qianqian didn't know much English, so she didn't quite understand what he was saying. But when he heard the word beautiful, his heart bloomed with joy. Her smile froze, and she looked at Shenjilie with a hint of smugness. She said, look, this foreigner has good taste. He could tell that I'm a peerless beauty with just one look. Shenjilie couldn't bear to look at her. He turned his head around and said angrily, Save it. She's doing this to earn your money 5 years from now. What beauty. It's all fake. It doesn't exist. Hey, you're blind and you don't allow others to speak the truth? Who are you? What kind of truth is that? He's deceiving his conscience and lying to you. Do you really think that he has a foreigner's sense of beauty? That's why he thinks an Asian girl is beautiful? Wake up, it's fake. F***ck. Shinjilia, do you have a death wish? Yi Qianqian's voice wasn't soft, and the people around her looked over. Shinjilia looked around and smiled sheepishly. He pulled Yi Qianqian aside and said, "We're in public. Can't you be a little more civil? Don't curse at the drop of a hat. It'll be awkward if you bump into your fellow countrymen." Yi Qianqian took the opportunity to pull him over and pinch his arm. Shinjilia wailed, but he didn't dare to make a sound. His face turned red. The handsome young man at the side could not help but smile. Yi Qianqian didn't notice it. She glared at him and said, "You still know how to be embarrassed? What if your fellow countrymen see you talking about your girlfriend like that? If they learn from you and end up falling out with your family, you'll become a sinner for all eternity. You're such a cheap mouth." Shinjilia turned his head to look at Yi Qianqian pitifully and said, "Can't you loosen your grip a little? Look at how others are imitating you when they see you like this. If they all go home and abuse you, won't that be even worse? Does it hurt?" Shinjilia immediately nodded his head in grievance. "Yeah. Serves you right." Yi Qianqian twisted him again before she managed to push him away. Shinjilia rubbed his hands, which were stinging from the pinching, and said, "You're too cruel. This is domestic violence. Serves you right. If you were afraid, you wouldn't marry me. If you marry me, I'll pinch you every day, every day. I'll pinch you until your body is swollen and you'll die of pain." Shinjilia no longer felt the pain. He walked past the handsome young man and leaned forward. He reached out and wrapped his arms around Yi Qianqian's waist. Yi Qianqian turned and looked around. She warned in a low voice, "Get lost." "What are you doing?" "Then I'll do it for you. I'll do it for you in the future." The corners of Shinjilia's mouth widened into a grin, revealing his pearly white teeth. He looked a little silly. Yi Qianqian's face heated up, and her body tensed up. Was this guy serious? He really wanted to marry her? Thinking about how he went to her house, asked her out, and talked about her with his grandmother, when all the connections were put together, Yi Qianqian's heart skipped a beat. However, a look of disdain immediately appeared on her face. She bumped into him and said, "I'm not going to pinch you anymore, I'm not going to pinch you anymore." Scram, scram. How can you do that? You're acting like a hooligan, buddy. So what if I'm acting like a hooligan? I like it. Scram. Yi Qianqian pushed him away. Her face was getting redder and redder. Chapter 1698. Yi Qianqian felt even more embarrassed. She lowered her head, pushed him away, and sat down. The handsome boy took out a wooden board with the date and date written on it. It was 5 years from today. Yi Qianqian wrote her name in Chinese. Shinjilia took it and wrote, "Baby, Daddy knew you'd come, Shinjilia." Yi Qianqian looked at it and said, "Hey, what if you don't come with me in 5 years? Won't it be awkward to see this board?" "No, I'll definitely come with you, and I'll bring a child with me." Shinjilia gestured in front of him. "It's this big. I'll hold it in my arms, and then we'll have a romantic date for 30 to 50 years. Yeah, life will be perfect." Shinjilia's wild and unrealistic words were all about the beautiful future he had planned for her. Yi Qianqian's heart seemed to be gently stirred by something, and an indescribable throbbing rippled in her heart. Seeing that Yi Qianqian was in a daze, Shinjilia quietly leaned over and whispered, "Are you very touched?" Yi Qianqian's throbbing was scared away. She waved her hand disdainfully and said, "Feel your ass." Shinjilia dodged in time and laughed. "All right, let's go back after dinner. Aren't you tired after playing all day?" No, I want to see the night view. I heard that Venice is very beautiful at night. Yi Qianqian looked at Shenjilie with a yearning expression. It's very beautiful. Okay. Shenjilie went back to sit down. When he looked up, he saw a waitress carrying a tray over and placing a glass of blue liquid in front of Yi Qianqian. Your drink, promise of romance. As soon as the drink was placed on the table, Yi Qianqian felt her eyes light up. The design of the glass was very special. There was a white light at the bottom of the glass, illuminating the floating silver stars in the blue liquid. It was like the stars in the night sky. It was so beautiful that it was hard to take one's eyes off it. It's so beautiful. Yi Qianqian stared at the drink in front of her. Her eyes were full of amazement. It was a dark-colored drink, but it was as beautiful as the Milky Way in the night sky. Yi Qianqian picked up her phone and took several photos. She added filters to make them even more beautiful. Wow, it's great. Promise of Romance was really worthy of this name. Beautiful and romantic. Yi Qianqian posted it on her WeChat Moments with the caption, 5 years, our romantic engagement. After she was done, Yi Qianqian picked up the straw and put it in. He had just taken a whiff, but it didn't seem to have any taste. But in the middle of the drink, a layer of white seemed to float. Like cream. Yi Qianqian held the drink in her mouth. After a while, she felt a cooling sensation. The texture was amazing. Yi Qianqian had never had such a special drink before. It tasted like mint, but it also had a hint of creamy sweetness. It's delicious. Yi Qianqian exclaimed. It's just a little expensive. Shenjilie reached out his hand. Let me have a taste. No. I'll pay the bill. Yi Qianqian immediately handed the cup over and said flatteringly, please, have a drink. Shenjilie chuckled. He accepted the straw and took a sip. There was indeed something special about it. It was cool, fragrant, and sweet. He smacked his lips and looked up, only to see a strange expression on Yi Qianqian's face. What happened? Chapter 1699. Shenjilie looked down and burst out laughing. He said, so what if you've drunk it? We've already kissed. What's there to be afraid of? Yi Qianqian felt a little uncomfortable when she heard that. Although it was the truth, saying it out loud. Why did it feel so strange? Shenjilie clearly saw her face turn red. She looked as if she had seen a ghost. He said, are you shy? Yi Qianqian was furious when she heard that and retorted, shy my ass. TSK. What's there to be shy about? We're a couple. Don't be afraid. Shenjilie waved his hand and took another 2 sips. Yi Qianqian felt her heart ache. Give it back to me. Leave some for me. Shenjilie was indifferent. In the end, Yi Qianqian had to step forward and pull it off. She drank it in one gulp. Not long after, Yi Qianqian felt a little dizzy, and her face was a little hot. When she walked out of the restaurant, a warm breeze blew, and Yi Qianqian felt a little tipsy. Was there alcohol in the drink? Why do I feel like I drank too much? Yi Qianqian's footsteps became a little crooked as she walked. She turned her head to look at Shenjilie and suddenly said, you didn't do something to the drink, did you? Shenjilie reached out to support her. The words that were on the tip of his tongue were swallowed back by her words. The expression on his face was one of helplessness and despair. He said, if I wanted to do anything to you, do you think you'd still be alive today? You're too naive. Then why do I feel so dizzy? It's like I drank alcohol. I just ate red wine snails. Oh. But would you get drunk with that little bit of alcohol? No. Maybe the drink just now had alcohol in it. Shenjilie glanced at her. Don't worry. I don't need to drug you. D*MN. What do you mean by that? Yi Qianqian raised her fist and waved it. Shenjilie held her little fist and said helplessly, stop fooling around. If you're not feeling well, go back first. Humph. You'll definitely do something to me when we get back to the hotel. Bah. Do you really think I'm so hungry that I can't be choosy? Dream on. Shinjilia's face was full of disdain. Why don't you walk back by yourself? No, no. Hold me. I'm dizzy. Yi Qianqian twisted her body, placed her hands on his shoulders, and rubbed her body against his. Yi Qianqian's body felt warm and soft. Caught off guard, Shinjilia was brushed against a few times, and his body tensed up slightly. He quickly pushed her lightly and said, "Calm down." Yi Qianqian's head was spinning. It felt like she had drunk several glasses of white wine. There must be alcohol in that drink. There wasn't any problem when he drank it, but he didn't expect there to be a backlash. Yi Qianqian frowned at his gentle push and asked, "You drank it too? Are you feeling dizzy too? Are you kidding me? I'm from the north. I can hold my liquor much better than you. Let me carry you." With that, Shinjilia carried her in his arms. Yi Qianqian smiled drunkenly and said, "Carry me." She leaned against him with a clear conscience and wrapped her arms around his neck. A pair of eyes stared straight at his chin. His skin was smooth, and there was a faint layer of green. It was very clean and fair. His face made one feel comfortable, like the sun shining brightly. Yi Qianqian stared at him and leaned forward to kiss him. Shinjilia's hand trembled, and he almost threw her away. Chapter 1700. Yi Qianqian noticed his reaction and burst out laughing. She found it amusing, so she raised her head and kissed him again. This time, Shinjilia was prepared, so he didn't have any reaction. He deliberately glanced at her with a straight face and said, "Are you going to come down yourself, or do you want me to throw you down?" Yi Qianqian quickly wrapped her arms around his neck and closed her eyes. Shinjilia walked toward the shore step by step. Because it was night time, there were many more water taxis. Shinjilia gave the address of the hotel and carried Yi Qianqian in to lie down. As soon as she got on the boat, Yi Qianqian immediately got up. She didn't look as weak as before. Shinjilia was so angry that he laughed and said, "Are you messing with me?" Yi Qianqian turned her head and chuckled. Shinjilia then realized that her face was completely red. From her cheeks to her forehead, it was a clear sign that she had been drinking. He reached out to touch her face. It was warm. Yi Qianqian slapped his hand away in disgust. She leaned against the window and looked out. The water taxis shuttled through various waterways. Everywhere they went, the scenery outside was brilliant. The clear and deep water reflected the dazzling lights of various colors. It was so fast that Yi Qianqian felt like she was in a dream. Her head was dizzy. Shinjilia supported her from behind, afraid that she would lose her balance and fall. Yi Qianqian, on the other hand, was steady. She leaned against the window with an intoxicated look on her face. It took about 20 minutes to reach their destination. Yi Qianqian saw that everything had stopped and turned her head to look behind her. Shinjilia paid the taxi fare. When he noticed her gaze, he snorted with an indescribable emotion. Then, he turned around and opened the door. Shinjilia looked at Yi Qianqian and half carried her down. It wasn't easy at all. Yi Qianqian blinked and asked, "Shinjilia, you have to take care of me when you come out to play. Aren't you tired?" Shinjilia looked gratified as he placed his hand on her forehead and stroked her. He nodded and said, "You've finally realized it. Not bad. Go away." Yi Qianqian slapped his hand away. "Don't carry me if you're tired. I can walk on my own." "Humph." Shinjilia scooped her up in his arms. "Even if I'm tired, this is all I can do. Don't tell me I don't care about you. I'm not crippled. I can walk on my own." Yi Qianqian struggled a little. Shinjilia immediately held her down. "Don't move. You're so heavy. If you move, I'll fall too." Shinjilia. "Ha ha ha, behave yourself." With that said, he strode into the hotel. The security checked the key card, then brought them to the elevator door, pressed the elevator button, and sent them in. Yi Qianqian leaned on Shenjilia's shoulder. She stared at Shenjilia's chin with her eyes that were neither sober nor dizzy. Shenjilia knew that she was looking at him. At first, he only glanced at her and asked, "Am I very handsome?" Yi Qianqian's eyes were wide open, but she didn't say a word. Shenjilia felt a little uncomfortable under her gaze, and he turned to look at her. Ding! The elevator arrived, and Shenjilia stepped forward. After Yi Qianqian opened the door with the key card, she twisted her body and said, "Put me down." He loosened his grip and put her down. Yi Qianqian immediately ran to the bathroom. Shenjilia finally breathed a sigh of relief. When he came back to his senses, he realized that he was already sweating. He took off his shirt, got a bottle of water, and sat on the sofa. Chapter 1701. Is Yi Qianqian taking a shower? Shenjilia looked at the time. It was still early. It was only a little past 7 in the evening. But when he thought about it, it made sense. She had woken up before 6 o'clock, and she had been out and about all day. It was only natural for her to be sleepy. However, when Shenjilia heard the sound of the water, his emotions, which had been surging uncontrollably, became even more restless. He was thirsty. He was even thirstier. Shenjilia gulped down 2 mouthfuls of water and let out a long breath. He stood up and went to the French windows to open them. A cool breeze swept over, and he felt more awake. Shenjilia leaned against the railing and took a deep breath. Drunk women are really troublesome. Shenjilia stayed for a while longer. Suddenly, he heard the bathroom door open behind him. He turned his head and saw Yi Qianqian walking out. But she was dressed in a completely different outfit. With just one look, Shenjilia felt a rush of blood rush to his head. The restless emotions that he had just calmed down suddenly became active again. And compared to before, it was even fiercer and more intense. She was actually not wearing any clothes. She was wrapped in a bath towel. She didn't seem to expect Shenjilia to be looking at her. She looked shocked. She immediately ran inside and quickly entered the room, closing the door behind her. Shenjilia's body tensed up. The heat in his lower abdomen was uncontrollable. He scratched his head in frustration and walked into the bathroom with a long breath. As soon as he entered, he saw what Yi Qianqian was wearing today. A red top and simple black pants were placed next to the washstand. A pink semicircle was vaguely visible underneath. And the seductive little lace, Shenjilia's body heated up even more. He immediately looked away and turned on the shower. He poured cold water over his head and cursed in a low voice, "Damn it, drunk women are really troublesome. Troublesome. Damn it, wasn't this the same as taking his life? This feeling is too unbearable." Shenjilia was about to go crazy. After a long time, he turned off the water and dried his body. He casually wrapped a bath towel around his waist and walked out while drying his hair. He rummaged through his luggage and found a pair of shorts to put on before sitting on the sofa and questioning life. Where should I sleep tonight? He slept in his room last night. Would it be weird if he slept on the sofa tonight? However, if he slept in the room, he would probably go crazy. Or perhaps, suffocation to death. It was also possible that he would take her when he couldn't control himself. No. Yi Qianqian hadn't fully accepted him yet. If he suddenly showed that kind of interest in her, she would definitely be unhappy. What if she was unhappy and wanted to break up? He had been careful for so long, he couldn't let it all go to waste at this time. Chapter 1702. Shenjilia was momentarily stunned. He blinked at Yi Qianqian in front of him. Under the dim light, Yi Qianqian's expression was unreadable. Before Shenjilia could see clearly, Yi Qianqian pounced on him and kissed him on the lips. Yi Qianqian had never taken the initiative before. She seemed to be mimicking the way Shenjilia usually kissed her, but she wasn't very familiar with it. She wrapped her arms around his neck and bit him repeatedly. Shinjilia closed his eyes tightly, and his expression was one of despair. He gently pushed her away and said, "What do you want?" Yi Qianqian froze. Her face flushed red. When Shinjilia saw that she wasn't moving, he said in a serious tone, "You're drunk. Don't mess around." When Yi Qianqian heard this, she was even more direct. She placed her hand on his naked waist. She leaned forward and sat on his body. Shinjilia couldn't hold himself back any longer. His throat tightened, and he wrapped an arm around her waist. His other hand gripped her chin, and Shinjilia's tongue invaded her mouth. His actions were urgent and forceful. Yi Qianqian's hands weren't very obedient. They slowly moved down from his waist, and her fingers tugged at his shorts. Shinjilia felt terrible. He pushed her away and asked, "Do you know what you're doing?" Yi Qianqian's face was as red as blood, but her gaze was firm. She looked at Shinjilia and enunciated each word clearly, "I raped you." Shinjilia thought he had misheard and couldn't help but laugh out loud. "What did you say?" Yi Qianqian didn't say another word. She tugged at his shorts and dragged them down, rubbing her body against him. Shinjilia couldn't take it anymore. His breathing quickened, and he lifted his leg. He turned the tables on her and pinned her under his body. "Don't you regret this?" he said. "No. Impossible." Before Yi Qianqian could finish her sentence, she was suppressed by his rapid movements. Yi Qianqian's body sank, and she was pushed to the center of the bed. Shinjilia grabbed a pillow and placed it under her head. Yi Qianqian yelped in surprise, but before she could do anything else, he grabbed her hands and lifted them high above her head. The passionate kiss was overwhelming. Yi Qianqian had never imagined that kissing could be so passionate. Shinjilia's lips traveled from her mouth to her neck. Yi Qianqian was ticklish, and she couldn't help but laugh out loud. She said, "Don't kiss me there. It tickles." Yi Qianqian sensed his movement, and her body trembled slightly. She instinctively pressed down on his hand. Shinjilia paused and looked up at her. Yi Qianqian seemed a little afraid, but she also felt an indescribable sense of anticipation. Shinjilia lowered his head and whispered, "Don't be afraid." Yi Qianqian wasn't afraid at first, but after hearing what he said, she became a little afraid. "Why not? Forget it." Yi Qianqian shrank back and pushed him away with her palm. She said, Shinjilia could tell at a glance that the guy was trying to beat a retreat. Chapter 1703. That wouldn't do. He had to let this woman know that she had to pay the price for doing bad things. Shinjilia covered her mouth and pressed her hand against the top of her head. He murmured, "I told you not to regret it. There's no turning back now." Sob. Yi Qianqian looked at him pitifully and struggled. However, Shinjilia had no intention of letting her go. Yi Qianqian had goosebumps all over her body. She wriggled in resistance and said, "Shinjilia, you." Shinjilia ignored her and moved his hand to the back of her head. He touched the button and twisted it a few times, but there was no sign of it loosening. Shinjilia was a little annoyed and tugged, but it made Yi Qianqian scream. "You idiot! Is this how you untie it? Do you know how to untie it or not?" When he heard this, Shinjilia seemed to be angry and said, "Why wouldn't I know how to untie it? Don't move." Yi Qianqian had no choice but to be patient. She arched her body so that he could untie it. But after a while, Shinjilia still hadn't untied it. Yi Qianqian was furious. She raised her leg and kicked him. F***ck off. "I'll do it myself." Shinjilia wasn't convinced. He pressed her down and grabbed her hand. "Don't move." "I don't believe it." He picked Yi Qianqian up and held her in front of him. Shinjilia looked behind her and used both his hands to untie the button easily. "See? What's so difficult about it?" Shinjilia tugged her up. Before he had time to be smug, he saw the pink bra. His body heated up, and he looked down at Yi Qianqian. Yi Qianqian clutched her chest and shrank back with a red face. Shenjilia couldn't stand it anymore. He pounced on her and pulled down her panties. You! Turn off the light. Shenjilia pulled her down and hid her under the blanket. There's no need to turn it off. Turn it off. It's too glaring. No, it's comfortable to look at. Don't be shy. Didn't you want to rape me? Look at how cowardly you are. I'll probably rape you. Yi Qianqian was annoyed. She pushed him away and straddled him. She shouted, Bullsh *T. I said that I'm stronger than you, so I'm stronger than you. What's with all this nonsense? Just lie down. Shenjilia had never been an obedient person. He pulled her leg and said helplessly and amusedly, Sir, please do me a favor. When you want to do whatever you want, take off my pants first. Yi Qianqian's face burned even hotter. She lowered her head and hid under the blanket. She reached out and pulled his shorts down. Slowly, slowly, hurry up, what are you doing? Are you afraid now? I'm a coward. Yi Qianqian tugged at it angrily. The moment she did so, she could clearly see the thing that made her extremely embarrassed. Yi Qianqian was shocked and immediately shrank back. Shenjilia slowly inched backward. He could tell what she was up to at a glance. He immediately stood up and pulled her back, teasing her with a smile, You're scared. I need to pee. Let me go, I need to pee. Scared to the point of peeing? Bah, you think you're so powerful, Chapter 1704. Don't be a coward. Shenjilia firmly suppressed her. At the very least, you should fulfill your promise. Yi Qianqian struggled to no avail. She could only tremble and relax. But then she was gently rubbed, and the electric shock was immediately triggered all over her body. Shenjilia didn't wait for her to finish. His fingers curled into the depths, and he clearly felt the resistance. Yi Qianqian was going crazy. The place that no one had touched before was clearly invaded. She subconsciously clamped her legs together and clenched her teeth. Shenjilia had expected it, but he felt strange that he could feel it so clearly. It was rare for a woman of her age to still be a virgin. What was even more strange was that this virgin kept saying that she wanted to rape him. Shenjilia's eyes darkened, and he began to move. It was very comfortable to hear such things. The first time was very painful, but after the pain, it would be very pleasurable. But Yi Qianqian didn't feel that it was very painful, but it was not very comfortable. Yi Qianqian resisted and pushed him away. She turned her head away and said, Dirty. Shenjilia didn't move away. He pressed his body against hers and kissed her inch by inch. Yi Qianqian's breathing became more and more rapid, and her throat made an unbearable sound. After an unknown amount of time, Shenjilia's hand finally moved away. But before Yi Qianqian could breathe a sigh of relief, she felt a wave of pain. It was followed by an indescribable tearing pain. The feeling came so suddenly that Yi Qianqian screamed and clung to his back tightly. Shenjilia's body was already covered in sweat. He looked at her and whispered, Don't be nervous. Relax. Yi Qianqian felt like she was about to faint from the pain. She clutched his arm tightly and shouted, F***ck, Shenjilia, you. Shenjilia also knew that it would hurt, and he was thinking about whether or not to withdraw. But when he heard her scolding, he gave up on the idea. When she felt him move slightly, Yi Qianqian breathed a sigh of relief. But then she felt an oppressive pain. Her body felt like it was being bitten by 10,000 ants. It was uncomfortable everywhere. F***ck off, Shenjilia, you big pervert. You F***king, sob, get out. It hurts so much. She grabbed his arm and said, Let's just say that you raped me. Get out of here. I won't rape you anymore. This is the first time in my life that I've experienced the pain of my lungs being torn apart. Woo. Shenjilia was amused. His body trembled slightly, and he almost lost control. He immediately perked up. No, there's no room for discussion. He kissed Yi Qianqian's lips and slowly began to move. As Shenjilia moved, Yi Qianqian resisted and cried. She cried so hard that Shenjilia didn't dare move. Hey, don't act like I'm really forcing myself on you. You're putting a lot of pressure on me. Yi Qianqian immediately stopped crying. Shenjilia grabbed a pillow and placed it under her waist before he began to suppress her sobs. It wasn't a long time, but it was torturous enough for Yi Qianqian. When they stopped, Yi Qianqian clenched her fists and contemplated life with her back to Shenjilia. Shenjilia leaned over and noticed that she was obviously unhappy. He scratched his head in frustration. She had cried so miserably just now, and he didn't dare to enjoy himself to his heart's content. He was still suppressing a ball of fire. He felt wronged. Yi Qianqian. Chapter 1705. Shenjilia couldn't help kissing her neck. He placed his hands by her side and asked in a husky voice, "Does it feel good?" Yi Qianqian was already a little embarrassed. When he asked her that question, she felt even more embarrassed. She glared at him, but he slammed into her again. Yi Qianqian's eyes welled up with tears. When she heard her embarrassed voice, she gritted her teeth. Shenjilia seemed to be addicted to it. He let out a low, husky breath. It sounded like he was moaning and deliberately seducing her. What was worse was that Yi Qianqian felt that he was extremely sexy when he did that. He was crazy. Yi Qianqian had tasted the sweetness and was no longer so resistant. This continued for a very, very long time. Yi Qianqian couldn't take it anymore and pushed him away. Shenjilia continued for a while longer before he stopped. Tired. So tired. It was rare for Yi Qianqian to wake up early and run 2 laps. She had never been so tired before. Her eyelids were fighting, and her body felt like it was falling apart. It was extremely uncomfortable. The most uncomfortable thing was that when she finally rested, she realized that the bed sheets were wet. Yi Qianqian turned over and lay on top of him. She was too lazy to move and asked, "What time is it?" Shenjilia looked around and finally moved to the bedside table to pick up a phone. He looked at it and was silent for a moment before he said, "Let's sleep." "What time is it?" "Well, it's almost 12. Yi Qianqian looked up suddenly. She was stunned at first, then she exclaimed in disbelief, "It was only 8 when you came in." "Well, I think so." D*MN, you. Yi Qianqian suddenly felt wronged. Ked me for more than 3 hours. Are you still human? Sob, sob, sob. My bones are falling apart. Shenjilia laughed when he heard that. Can't you have some self-awareness as a woman? What are you saying? How am I not a woman? If you have the guts, go sleep with a man. Shenjilia laughed even louder. He hugged her and said, "Go take a shower." "Oh. I don't want to move. I'm tired." Yi Qianqian lay on top of him and looked at him pitifully. Shenjilia sat up and carried her in his arms. "Let me help you," he said. Yi Qianqian immediately got up and shook her head. "No, I'll go by myself." "What are you afraid of? Which part of your body haven't I seen before?" Yi Qianqian reached out and pinched his waist. "So what if I've seen it? I'm not going to wash it for you." It didn't hurt, but Shenjilia immediately wailed and said, "Ouch. You're trying to murder your husband." Scram. "I'm going to take a bath." Yi Qianqian pulled her pajamas over to cover her body. She glanced at the wet bedsheets. There were a few spots of blood on them, and they were mottled and messy. "The bed is dirty. Go take a shower. I'll call someone to change the sheets." "Ah. I don't think so. Wouldn't they know what we did?" "That's not good, but he obviously did something. If we don't change it, are we supposed to keep it for the night?" "Ugh, it should be quite uncomfortable to fall asleep." Yi Qianqian thought for a moment before nodding her head. Hurry up then. I'll go to bed after I take a shower. I'm hungry, are you? It would have been better if he hadn't mentioned it. Once he did, Yi Qianqian really did feel a little hungry. Yeah, go ahead and call someone. Shenjilia knew her taste the best, so she didn't worry about it. She pulled her clothes over and put them on. As she put them on, Yi Qianqian turned her head to warn him, don't peek at me. Shenjilia was confused. Which part of your body haven't I seen before? Why can't I see when you're wearing clothes? Yi Qianqian's face heated up. She glared at him and said, you're not allowed to look. Turn around. Shenjilia was defeated by her. He stretched out his hands with an expression of defeat on his face and turned his head away. Yi Qianqian quickly put on her shirt and pants before running out. Only when he got to the bathroom did he realize that he was in a mess. Hickeys. Deep and shallow marks covered her chest, and neck, moreover, it hurt. Chapter 1706. Yi Qianqian resisted the urge to sit down. She turned on the hot water and quickly showered. Halfway through the shower, she heard the doorbell ring. It must be room service. Yi Qianqian stayed in the bathroom for about 10 minutes before she slowly walked out. The bed sheets had been changed, and it looked very clean and tidy. Shenjilia, on the other hand, was sitting on the bed. He was dressed in simple, typical pajamas. Wow, you're dressed so conservatively. Yi Qianqian took her hair down and teased him. Of course. An auntie came to change the bed sheets just now. Do I have to let her have a look? Shenjilia lifted the blanket and patted the spot beside him. Come here. Yi Qianqian didn't have much energy left. She looked at his invitation and was a little wary. What do you want? Shenjilia smiled helplessly. What can I do? I'm tired after such a long time. Come here. Yi Qianqian walked over suspiciously. Her legs were already sore and weak. Once she sat down, her whole body felt comfortable. She lay down comfortably. Yi Qianqian closed her eyes and fell asleep. Shenjilia also lay down and covered her with the blanket. Then, he crossed his legs and clamped her down. When we go back, don't go back to Kingstown. Come with me to the capital. Ah. Yi Qianqian's drowsiness suddenly disappeared. She opened her eyes and looked at Shenjilia. What the hell? So fast? How long do you want to wait? We're already like this. Don't you want to marry me? Shenjilia stared at Yi Qianqian. Yi Qianqian was a little confused. Did they have to get married after sleeping together? Although it was her first time, Yi Qianqian really didn't think that she had to leave her first time to her husband. The reason she had kept it before was purely because she hadn't met the right person she liked. Now, although Shenjilia was not bad, was it too sudden and too fast to ask to meet his family the moment they were in bed? Yi Qianqian was not mentally prepared at all. She looked at Shenjilia and said after a long while, Do you bring every girl you sleep with home to meet your parents? Shenjilia clamped her legs tightly. Yi Qianqian felt a little pain. She frowned and said, It hurts. What are you doing? Who am I in your eyes? Do you think I'm the kind of person who would mess around outside? Shenjilia's voice was devoid of any trace of amusement. Yi Qianqian was even more confused. She retorted, Aren't you? Yi Qianqian. Shenjilia gritted his teeth. He was so angry that he raised his fist, but he didn't know what to say. After a long time, he sighed heavily and said, Do I look like a playboy? Yi Qianqian hadn't expected him to suddenly ask such a question. She thought about it seriously for a moment and said, I don't think you're a playboy. I just feel that you're not very loyal. Your love life should be very rich. After all, Shenjilia felt like he was about to vomit blood. He suddenly flipped over and pinned Yi Qianqian beneath him. Unlike the gentleness from before, he exerted all his strength on her, as if he wanted to crush her to death. Yi Qianqian felt a little uncomfortable. She tried to push him away, but he wouldn't budge. What are you doing? Do you think you're that light? I'll be crushed to death by you later. Crush you to death. How dare you defile me? Chapter 1707. Shenjilia's revenge had failed. When he saw how heartless Yi Qianqian was, he felt a surge of anger in his chest. It was so heavy that he couldn't get up or down. It was so uncomfortable. Shenjilia flipped over and lay with his back facing Yi Qianqian. He closed his eyes and stopped talking. Yi Qianqian was baffled. After she loosened her muscles and bones, she looked at Shenjilia. Shenjilia's back was facing her. His body was curled up, and his arms were crossed. He looked angry. What the hell? She wasn't even angry. Why was he angry? Staring at his back, Yi Qianqian coughed softly and said, "What's wrong with you?" Shenjilia shrank to the side and didn't make a sound. But the signs of resistance to anger were even more obvious. Yi Qianqian didn't understand. She leaned over and reached out to grab his arm. Shenjilia didn't move. Yi Qianqian gathered her courage and leaned over again. She whispered, "Hey, what's wrong with you? Why are you angry?" Shenjilia still didn't make a sound. Yi Qianqian put her leg on his body and shouted, "Shenjilia! Shen Ergu! Darling!" Shenjilia shivered and immediately shook her leg off. Yi Qianqian saw that and immediately leaned over again. Her chest was pressed against his back, and her whole body was wrapped around him like an octopus. "My dear little baby." Shenjilia was even more shocked. He struggled for a moment and said in a low voice, "Get away." Yi Qianqian was disgusted, but at least the guy reacted. Yi Qianqian immediately crawled to his side and leaned her head toward his cheek to kiss him. Shenjilia didn't react when she kissed him. His eyes were still closed, and his arms were wrapped even tighter. His lips were tightly pursed, and he didn't say a word. Yi Qianqian flipped over from behind him and rubbed against him. "What's wrong? Tell me what's wrong. You're not a hero if you're angry. You're not a man." Shenjilia opened his eyes and looked at Yi Qianqian. He reached out and hugged her. "Whether I'm a man or not, I'm afraid you won't be able to handle it." Yi Qianqian's face turned red from his teasing. She struggled for a moment and said, "I can't kill you, you pervert. You're the pervert." Shenjilia gritted his teeth and tightened his grip on her waist. She resisted and pushed him away. She shouted, "Shenjilia, are you crazy? Are you trying to strangle me to death?" "Humph." Shenjilia let go of her and turned his head to sleep with his back facing her. Yi Qianqian felt that he was being unreasonable, and her anger flared. She turned around and ignored him. A few minutes later, the doorbell rang. It was probably because of the food. Yi Qianqian's stomach was growling, but she wasn't wearing any underwear, so it wasn't appropriate for her to open the door. He nudged the man behind him with his butt. "Open the door." Unexpectedly, Shenjilia did not move or make a sound. It was as if he had fallen asleep. Yi Qianqian's anger surged. She flung the blanket aside forcefully, got out of bed, and stomped out of the room. However, before she could reach the doorknob, she was pulled back by a large hand. Shenjilia had a sleepy look on his face. His red lips were tightly pursed, and he walked out with a displeased look on his face. Yi Qianqian was furious and shouted, "Shenjilia, are you crazy?" Shenjilia ignored her and went to open the door. Chapter 1708. Shenjilia took the food and signed his name before he slowly walked in and placed the food on the table. He ordered a simple pizza and 2 glasses of fruit juice, all of which Yi Qianqian liked. Shenjilia paused as he looked at the food. He thought about what Yi Qianqian had just said, "I don't think you're a playboy, but I think you're not very faithful. Your love life should be very rich. After all, what was he doing? After all, he was already so old. So he couldn't take her home, couldn't let her see his parents? A normal woman would be willing to give her first time to this man. Wasn't it because she was willing to be with this man? If she was willing, why wouldn't she want to go back to the capital with him to see his parents? Shinjilia felt a fire burning in his stomach. At the same time, he felt a little sad. From Yi Qianqian's attitude just now and her attitude when he went to Yuntown, she probably never thought of marrying him. Shinjilia sat on the sofa and suddenly felt a little defeated. What was wrong with him? Was he not handsome enough, or was he not good enough? That couldn't be right. If he was in the capital, there would be a lot of women willing to marry him just by mentioning his name. Why wouldn't Yi Qianqian be willing? There was no reason for her not to be willing. Shinjilia couldn't help but think that from the beginning, he had been the one taking the initiative and maintaining the relationship. Other than this time, Yi Qianqian had only been passively accepting it. His mind was a mess. As he sat there, his mind was filled with thoughts that were driving him crazy. What did Yi Qianqian mean? After a long time, Shinjilia stood up and walked to the door of the room. When he opened the door, he found that it was locked from the inside. He knocked twice and asked, "Are you hungry? Come out and eat." Yi Qianqian was covered in the blanket and hugged it angrily. When she heard that, her stomach grumbled twice. Damn it! Why did she have to make life difficult for herself? Shinjilia was sick, but she wasn't. She lifted the blanket and got out of bed. Yi Qianqian opened the door. Shinjilia stood at the door. When he saw her angry face, he finally felt better. At least he wasn't the only one who was upset. Yi Qianqian walked out barefoot. When she saw the pizza, her stomach grumbled even more happily. She went to the bathroom to wash her hands. Then, she opened a bottle of juice and drank it. Shinjilia looked at it and scratched his head. He walked over and sat down beside her. Yi Qianqian. Yi Qianqian ignored him and grabbed a pair of gloves. She grabbed a pizza and ate happily. It was just a little hot, and Yi Qianqian couldn't quite grasp it through her gloves, so she put it down again. Do you have some misunderstanding about me? What misunderstanding? It's nothing. Yi Qianqian picked it up again and put it in her mouth. It's a little hot. Have you washed your hands? Shinjilia replied, No, I think you might have misunderstood something. I did have a few girlfriends in the past, but they were just for fun. The longest lasted no more than 3 months. Later, I fell in love with Lily because I admired her. But that kind of admiration wasn't as strong as what we are now. Yi Qianqian looked at him as she ate. Shinjilia was also hungry. His appetite had been whetted by the sight of her enjoying herself. He leaned over and sat down. He continued, You said that I have a lot of experience in relationships, but in fact, I'm not that experienced. You might not believe it, but before I met you, all those women were just passable. Yi Qianqian pouted and stuffed the last bite into her mouth. I don't believe you. Shinjilia was speechless. Chapter 1709. I'm serious. Shinjilia was afraid that she wouldn't believe him, so he stared at her and said seriously. Yi Qianqian grabbed another slice of pizza and stuffed it into his mouth. I'm being serious, she said. Shinjilia was speechless. He took a bite of the pizza in his mouth and ate it as if it tasted like wax. The atmosphere was tense. Neither Shinjilia nor Yi Qianqian spoke first. After dinner, they washed up and went back to their rooms to sleep. Yi Qianqian was in a terrible mood, and so was Shinjilia. He tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. He turned around and held her in his arms as he asked, Yi Qianqian, how exactly do you feel about me? Yi Qianqian wasn't asleep either. When she felt the warmth of his body behind her, her heart fluttered. But when he heard these words, he felt upset in his heart. He was her first man. How could she feel about him? If she didn't have feelings for him, would she have slept with him? But when he heard these words, he felt terrible. Twisting his arm, he said, I should be the one asking you. Then ask me, and I'll answer you. Yi Qianqian had her back to him. She didn't respond or speak. Shenjilia was silent for a long time before he said, "You pounced on me in the middle of the night and said that you wanted to rape me. Now that your evil plan has succeeded, you can't just shirk responsibility, can you?" Yi Qianqian nearly choked on her saliva. She exploded in anger and retorted, "Bullsh*****. Have you ever seen a rapist take responsibility for his victim? F***ck, you really don't intend to take responsibility? I don't care. Anyway, like you said, I'm yours from now on." Shenjilia held her waist tightly. "You've already defiled me. I won't be able to get married in the future. If you don't want me anymore, I'll die." Yi Qianqian was speechless. Shenjilia leaned over and stroked her slightly fleshy belly with one hand. He squeezed it. Yi Qianqian was ticklish. She shivered slightly. "Go away. If you want me to leave, I can, but I want my status," Shenjilia said pitifully as he leaned against her back. Status, Yi Qianqian. Status? Yi Qianqian looked disgusted. "What's a status? Can I eat it?" "Yes, with a title, you can work with a certificate. It will be much more convenient." Yi Qianqian felt that it was too sudden. She didn't reject him, but she never thought they would get married right after having sex. Shenjilia, she said. Right now, he liked her, especially when he had just taken her virginity. It was normal for him to be so excited. Jilia said, Shen, Jilia, Shen, Ti, Xing, Shen, Ti, Shent. At. Especially since Shenjilia was from the capital. Yi, Shen, Ti, Shen, Yi, Ti, Shen, at. Jilia, A, T, Shen. Shen. 2, at. Am God, T, ah, so you look at age? Actually, more importantly, I want to bring you home so that my parents and grandma can take a look at you. After we return, let's go straight to the capital, okay? Yi Qianqian found it hard to accept. Why are you in such a hurry? I think it's too soon. Shenjilia could tell that she didn't want to. After a moment of silence, Shenjilia hugged her and said, let's sleep. Chapter 17:10. It was quiet all night. When Yi Qianqian woke up, Shenjilia was no longer in bed. It was empty. Yi Qianqian felt that something was wrong. Is this guy still in a bad mood? Yi Qianqian got up and walked out of the door. She didn't see Shenjilia on the sofa. The bathroom was empty. Yi Qianqian suddenly felt a little uneasy. She just didn't want to go home with him to see his parents. How could this guy go missing? She looked around and called out, Shenjilia. However, there was still no answer. Yi Qianqian ran back to her room and found her cell phone. She immediately called Shenjilia. As soon as the call went through, Shenjilia picked up the phone. Hello? The voice sounded a little energetic. There was a little noise on the side. Yi Qianqian was silent for a moment when she heard the voice. Then she asked, where are you? I'm buying breakfast outside. This shop has a very good reputation. I'm still in line. Wait for me. I'll be back soon. Yi Qianqian breathed a sigh of relief. Okay. Bye. After hanging up, Yi Qianqian felt her heart tighten. She was a little afraid that he would leave her alone. She looked at the time on her cell phone. It was 8:30 in the morning. It was getting late. But that guy had tossed and turned for half a day last night. He didn't fall asleep until at least 3 or 4 o'clock. Would his body be able to take it if he woke up so early? Yi Qianqian felt a little guilty. After a long time, she sighed, put down her cell phone to charge, and went to wash up. It was past 1 o'clock in the afternoon in the capital. Luo Ran had just fallen asleep from his afternoon nap when he was awakened by Shinjilia's WeChat message. Shinjilia had never looked for him once in 8 lifetimes. Whenever he did, it was either a meal or a drink. This was the first time. Just when Luo Ran thought the sky was falling, he realized that Shinjilia wanted him to find a way to get his girlfriend. Excuse me. When did this guy have a girlfriend? In the face of Luo Ran's question, Shinjilia had no intention of explaining at all. He poured out all his troubles and what had happened. After understanding what had happened between them, Luo Ran disdainfully said, "Are you stupid? Even if I know what you said is true, who would believe you? Your girlfriend might even think that you said the same thing to all of your girlfriends." Shinjilia felt as if he had been shot in the heart. Ever since last night, he had felt that something was amiss. Then what should we do? I've already said it. Is there any way to save it? Luo Ran's interest was piqued when he heard that. Are you serious? Look at how beautiful this girl is. She's already taken care of you. Look at you, do you still want to marry her? Of course. If I don't marry her, why would I waste so much effort? Don't talk too much, just tell me what to do. That's not easy. Most girls like to listen to sweet talk. You just need to be a little more sweet. Pooh. Shinjilia spat angrily. It'd be great if this woman was just like any other girl. Did you know? Last night, she said she wanted to rape me. In the end, I found out she was a virgin. Shameless. You talk as if you're not a virgin. You still have the cheek to talk about others? Luo Ran had a look of disdain on his face. She doesn't want to marry you because she thinks that you're not good at it, right? Shut up. She's not that kind of person. Caven, hard to write. Chapter 17:11. Luo Ran immediately understood and said with a smile, so that's how it is. Shinjilia didn't have many friends, but Luo Ran was one of them. The two of them had known each other since college, and their friendship could be said to be quite good. Luo Ran liked to hang out in bars, and Shinjilia was often taken around by him. The few girlfriends he had met before were all in bars, but later he gradually found that the girls in bars were not reliable, so Shinjilia gave up the idea of being single in bars. Unfortunately, after his girlfriends parted on good terms with him, they turned around and got together with Luo Ran. Especially after they told Luo Ran that Shinjilia didn't have any improper thoughts about them, Luo Ran had been laughing at them until now. Hearing Luo Ran's laughter, Shinjilia had a bad feeling. Sure enough, Luo Ran immediately said, "It's also your first time, and it's also her first time. You have lived for most of your life, but you have never tasted a woman. You can't control yourself, and you annoy her. That's why she is so resistant to you." Shinjilia was silent for a moment. Was that really the reason? Thinking of her reaction last night, Shinjilia actually felt that it was right. Luo Ran seemed to be quite experienced in this regard. His words seemed to solve all his doubts. Shinjilia was waiting in line to buy breakfast, and the people in front of him were getting fewer and fewer. Luo Ran heard that he didn't speak, so he said again, "You said that you slept with her last night, and then you turned around and asked her to see your parents. A normal girl would probably think that you can't find a wife and are afraid that she will run away, so you are in a hurry to find a wife. If I were that girl, I'm afraid I would break up with you in bed. Your girl has a good temper. Bah, who's like you? Women change like they change clothes. I'm her first boyfriend. That's even more normal. Women who have never been in love have endless yearning for that kind of thing." Luo Ran was so sleepy that he yawned. He leaned back in the lounge and said, "They want to be handsome, rich, and nice to themselves. They want to live like a princess. As for men, aren't they just Prince Charming and Black Knight? A loser like you is basically out of the scope of those girls' sexual fantasies." Shinjilia was speechless. "Besides, you said that this girl is your ex-sister-in-law's sister, so she must have a certain understanding of your family. Your grandmother treated your ex-sister-in-law so badly, so it's normal that she doesn't dare to marry you. Shinjilia was speechless. All right, you think about it yourself. I don't want to get married anyway. I can probably guess what this girl is thinking. Don't push her too hard. Even a rabbit will bite when it's cornered, and this girl is still a virgin. Even if you want to, you have to hold it in. Don't give her a psychological shadow. Otherwise, you'll lose more than you gain. Shinjilia was displeased. You seem to know a lot about me. Of course. Who do you think you are? What kind of women have I not seen before? I can conjure up a basket of them for you. I'm very familiar with this little trick. All right, I'm hanging up. Grandpa, I'm going to sleep. Goodbye. After Luo Ran hung up the phone, Shinjilia felt even more uncomfortable. This guy was beating around the bush with his words. Was he saying that his EQ was low? At that moment, it was Shinjilia's turn. Chapter 17:12. By the time he returned with breakfast, Yi Qianqian had already changed and was sitting on the sofa playing games. When she saw him come back, she looked at the time. It was almost 9 o'clock. Yi Qianqian went up to take the breakfast and opened the packaging. Why are you up so early? This shop is very popular. I had to go and queue up. Shinjilia went to wash his hands and took out a wet towel. Let's go to the museum today and then to the art gallery to cultivate our spirit. Yi Qianqian suddenly felt bored. Is there any other place? Didn't you come up with a guide before you came? What else is there to play? Yi Qianqian's eyes suddenly lit up. Let's go to the art gallery. Let's play. Okay. Shinjilia took her hand and wiped it for her. Let's eat first. We'll play later. Yi Qianqian's hand was warm from his wiping. She recalled the panic that had flashed through her heart when she couldn't find him. Yi Qianqian felt that something was wrong with her. She seemed to care about this man too much. It was said that in a relationship, the person who fell in love first was the loser. She might have already lost, starting from yesterday when she decided to give herself to him. Shinjilia saw that she was in a daze and didn't say anything. He took out the breakfast and said, "Eat while it's hot." It was the weekend, so there were many people in the art gallery. Not only were there Italians, but there were also many people with the same yellow skin and black eyes walking around. They were either speaking Korean or Japanese, or some other language that they couldn't recognize. Yi Qianqian's body was still sore, and she couldn't walk very well. Shinjilia saw it and felt that what Luo Ran had said couldn't be more right. She definitely wasn't feeling well, but she didn't ruin their fun. Apart from doing it the night before, Yi Qianqian hadn't complained at all. Where else could he find a girl like her? Shinjilia followed behind her, and the self-blame in his heart increased. Yi Qianqian didn't notice Shinjilia's strange behavior. She pulled him excitedly and said, "Let's go. There's something fun there." It was an art gallery that was specially provided for people to play. In addition to pottery, there were rooms for sketches, oil paintings, flower arrangements, and handicrafts. Yi Qianqian had wanted to visit such a place for a long time, but she couldn't find the time when she was in Kingstown. Instead, she realized her dream overseas. Yi Qianqian stood in line and bought a ticket to enter. She looked down the corridor and saw the art studio. Holding Shinjilia's hand, Yi Qianqian could clearly see through the glass door that there was a beautiful woman inside. The beauty had blonde hair and blue eyes. She was very beautiful. Her long hair was tied into a braid and hung in front of her. The pink gauze dress she wore covered half of her body and just happened to cover the vital parts of her body. His snow-white skin was even more stunning under the pink fabric. It was so beautiful that Yi Qianqian couldn't tear her eyes away. She immediately reacted and turned to look at Shinjilia. When she realized that he was also looking, she quickly covered his eyes and said, "You're not allowed to look." Shinjilia blinked his eyes in exasperation and pride. She's a model. What are you thinking? Girls can sacrifice themselves for art, but you can't look at it. You're not going in. Chapter 17:13. I'll eat your ass. Aren't you childish? Yi Qianqian pushed him away and turned around. Let's go. The clay classroom is over there. Yi Qianqian walked awkwardly. Shenjilia quickly caught up with her and held her arm. Let's go together. Yi Qianqian glared at him and began to look around. The purpose of her visit was very clear, the clay classroom. When they entered, they found many girls and men accompanying their partners. Yi Qianqian and Shenjilia swiped their tickets and walked in. They walked to a table that no one had used before. The tables were separated from each other by a partition, so neither of them could see what she was doing. It was Yi Qianqian's first time playing with such a thing. She put on an apron and sat down. She looked at the simple tutorial posted on the partition and quickly got the hang of it. Shenjilia had never played with it before either. The two of them squeezed the clay into a ball. Their hands were covered with grayish-white clay. What's next? Yi Qianqian was a little confused. How do I start the clay machine? Let me study it. Shenjilia looked around and pressed the switch. Then, the clay machine began to turn slowly. Yi Qianqian was a little excited when they finally got to the main topic. She placed her hands on the clay and looked at the marks left by her fingers. The shape of the clay began to slowly change. The joy she felt was indescribable. The clay grew and was pressed into a short and fat person. Yi Qianqian was playing with it excitedly. Shenjilia watched her play. Yi Qianqian glanced at him and said, "Go play at the table next to you. This thing is fun." No. Shenjilia moved forward and pressed his tall body against her back. Let's play together. Yi Qianqian's body tensed slightly. With him pressing against her, the heat immediately rose. Yi Qianqian looked around and felt a little embarrassed. She said, "Don't do this. It's not good if others see us." Huh? Shenjilia lowered his head. His warm breath blew on her neck. We're not doing anything. Why are you afraid of others seeing us? As he spoke, he reached out and gently placed his hand on Yi Qianqian's. Both of their hands were dirty and stuck with grayish-white clay. Yi Qianqian looked at the clay that was gradually being pressed down and suddenly remembered a scene from a movie she had watched before. Shenjilia's body pressed closer and closer to her as he whispered, "Is this your first time playing this?" It was rare for Shenjilia to speak in such a gentle voice. In an instant, Shenjilia's temperament seemed different. Was he deliberately flirting with her? Yi Qianqian saw through him in an instant, but she couldn't believe that Shenjilia had seduced her. Yi Qianqian felt even more uncomfortable when she heard his question from behind her. She nudged him gently and said, "Get away from me. You're making me feel so hot." Shenjilia moved away slightly. He looked at the slowly rotating ceramic machine and said, "Come, I'll teach you." "You can?" "I used to accompany my mom to play a few times. I've probably seen how other people play." Shenjilia used his finger to gently push it to the center, and a dent slowly appeared in the clay. Yi Qianqian looked over and poked it with her finger. She chuckled and said, "This is easy. I heard that the difficult part lies in the heat control and timing. Otherwise, it will crack easily. Let's try." Shenjilia couldn't help but wrap his arms around her. Especially when he thought about the taste of last night, he felt uncomfortable all over. Yi Qianqian immediately sensed that something was wrong as the heat surged. Chapter 17:14. Behind her, Shenjilia was pressing himself firmly against her. He leaned close to her ear and watched the gradually changing clay in front of him. Yi Qianqian glanced sideways. Shenjilia was leaning forward with a very serious expression on his face. It was as if he wasn't the one pressing a hot bulge against her at that very moment. Yi Qianqian's face instantly turned red. After struggling for a moment, she growled, "Get lost, you pervert. Be quiet." Shenjilia's gaze was still on the clay in front of him. "It's going to spoil soon. You, let go." Yi Qianqian glared at him. To think that I just thought of a classic scene from Ghost. What a waste of such a romantic plot. Get out of my way. Yi Qianqian said. Shenjilia felt even more uncomfortable. He pressed her against him and said, Don't. There are people around. If they see us, it'll be even more embarrassing. Just for a moment. What's the classic scene in Ghost? Yi Qianqian didn't know if it was an illusion, but she felt as if everyone around them was looking in her direction. She looked around, but it didn't seem to be there. At this point, Yi Qianqian had no choice but to turn her head back with a red face. She looked at the clay and twisted it uncomfortably. She said, Isn't it just a scene where we play with clay? The male lead and the female lead are in love, but just as they are about to get married, the male lead is killed. The female lead is heartbroken. At that moment, the male lead's good friend takes advantage of the situation, but his motive is not pure. Later, it is discovered that the male lead's death was planned by the good friend. The good friend pursues the female lead? Yes, but he has a motive. Then why is the clay scene a classic? Because they love each other very much. Even if it's just quietly kneading clay together, there is a resonance in their souls. That kind of spiritual connection is pure and supreme. Oh, it's a very romantic plot. It's not as wretched as you. Yi Qianqian said this in a low voice. Move away. I'm uncomfortable. Shenjilia didn't budge. He asked in a low voice, Which country is this movie from? America. Haven't you seen such a classic movie? Yes, but I'm not interested in romance movies. Shenjilia tightened his grip on her hand. Very quickly, her hand crumbled into a ball. Do you know why this scene in the movie is such a classic? Because it was placed in a classic movie, it became a classic, Yi Qianqian said matter-of-factly. Shenjilia chuckled. Yes, but I think there's another explanation. What? In the United States, clay is called clay, but clay has another meaning. Yi Qianqian's English wasn't very good, but she still knew what the word meant. Blinking his eyes, he asked, Body? Yes. Shenjilia covered her hands with both of his and slowly pushed the clay away. Round by round, he asked, Do they play with clay like this too? Yi Qianqian suddenly felt a little evil. As she looked at the clay, she couldn't help but associate it with the word flesh. In the movie, they're playing with clay. This is very straightforward and bold. It's ambiguous and dirty. Yi Qianqian's face burned even hotter. You think I'm just playing with clay now? Chapter 17:15. Don't accuse me wrongly. Isn't that what the movie is trying to express? Shenjilia's lips curled up in a smile. He seemed to have gotten what he wanted. As she spoke, Yi Qianqian could clearly feel the hardness behind her back not diminishing in the slightest. Instead, it made her feel even more embarrassed. Shenjilia placed his hands on top of hers. His fingers pressed against the gaps between her fingers as he wantonly played with the clay that was constantly spinning on the ceramic machine. Its shape was constantly changing, and it looked terrible. But at the same time, Yi Qianqian felt that such a scene had an indescribable desire. Bastard, you've been brainwashed. Yi Qianqian moved a little. Let go. Move away. I'm quite curious. Shenjilia suddenly changed the topic. In the movie you watched, what did they do after they finished playing with clay? What did he do? Yi Qianqian knew that after they teased each other, they kissed. Two pairs of muddy hands intertwined with each other as they kissed. The scene was beautiful and romantic. Then, the screen went black. Yi Qianqian used to think that this kind of love was wonderful, but when it came to herself, she couldn't feel it anymore. Yi Qianqian's face heated up at the thought that they might have done something indescribable after that. She nudged Shenjilia and said, It's none of your business. If you want to know, go and see for yourself. Right now. I feel terrible. Shenjilia finally stepped aside. His body was so tense that it was uncomfortable. I'm going to the bathroom. Yi Qianqian was speechless. What was he going there for? Could it be, so disgusting? When Shenjilia saw the look of disgust on Yi Qianqian's face, he immediately knew what she was thinking. He felt wronged and said, the bathroom is just behind. I'll be out soon. Oh. Yi Qianqian still had a look of disdain on her face as she continued to play with the clay. After a few minutes, Shenjilia walked out. There were beads of water on her face, and her cheeks were red. Yi Qianqian glanced at it and replied, I'll do it myself. You should get some rest. What do you want to do? I want to make it into a bowl. Shenjilia burst out laughing. Don't most people make cups? How did you make it into a basin? And it's so small, how are you going to make a basin? There are many different types of pots, Yi Qianqian said, concentrating on her work. She thinned the walls of the pot and pushed it higher. Most people make cups, but I'm different. Cups are a tragedy. I want to make a comedy. Washing utensils? Shenjilia looked at it carefully. After a moment's thought, he turned to leave. Wait a moment. Yi Qianqian craned her neck to look, but Shenjilia was nowhere to be seen. After a while, Shenjilia reappeared with a basin in his hand. It was filled with a sizable amount of clay. Yi Qianqian's eyes lit up. How big do you want to make the basin? It should at least be a wash basin. With that bit of dirt you have, it's not even enough to drink soup. Shenjilia added the clay he had just prepared into the pot and began to serve it earnestly. Both of them were just here to play and were not professionals at all. After much difficulty, they finally made something that looked like a wash basin. Full of anticipation, they took the wash basin to burn. However, extreme joy turned to sorrow. Because the basin was too big, it couldn't fit into the oven. When Yi Qianqian heard this, her face was filled with disappointment. She looked at Shenjilia. Chapter 17-16. Yi Qianqian had no choice but to take it back and rework it. She suddenly had an idea. He poured the water into the basin and divided it into 2 pieces. Come and help. Yi Qianqian called out to Shenjilia. Yi Qianqian was usually carefree, but when she was serious, she was very focused. She stared at the clay in front of her. As she kneaded and kneaded, Yi Qianqian put the pieces together and quickly created a prototype. Judging from the shape, it looked like a human. Yi Qianqian deliberately flattened a small piece of soil and stuck it to her hair. It was short and looked like a man's. Then, she took Shenjilia's and made a woman with long hair. She even made a cute dress. These 2 things were much smaller than the basin from before. When they were taken to be fired again, the supervisor took a second look at them and said, this one might take a little longer to burn. It's solid inside. Both of them nodded. Yi Qianqian was filled with anticipation. Looking at the time, it was 1:00 in the afternoon. Yi Qianqian's stomach was growling with hunger. She had no choice but to leave the art gallery to find a place to eat. However, Yi Qianqian really didn't feel like eating spaghetti anymore. Ever since she came here, almost every meal had been spaghetti. Although the taste was not bad, it was not the taste of his motherland, so he was not used to it. After searching around with Shenjilia, they finally found a Japanese restaurant. The restaurant was opened by Japanese people. As soon as they entered, they could feel the strong Japanese atmosphere. The waiters inside were also yellow-skinned and looked like they were Japanese. They wore kimonos and smiled warmly at them. Are you too Japanese? The girl asked in English. Shenjilia shook his head. He's from Huaxia. The waiter immediately understood. He handed over the menu and took out a tablet. Yi Qianqian ordered some of her favorite dishes. When she looked up, she saw a woman holding a child's hand as she walked past. The woman's belly was very big. She looked like she was a few months pregnant. She was on the phone. She was from China. What about the child? I can't take care of him alone. Yi Qianqian couldn't hear anything else, but she looked at her belly. If she was alone, she wouldn't be able to take care of a child. Subconsciously, Yi Qianqian thought back to last night. It seemed like they didn't take any precautions. The hotel didn't even have condoms, let alone birth control pills. She glanced at Shenjilia, who was looking at the menu. It was obvious that he hadn't noticed the woman who had just passed by. Yi Qianqian stood up and said, "I'm going to the bathroom." "Okay," Shenjilia replied and continued to order. He didn't notice that Yi Qianqian walked out of the private room. He asked the girl at the front desk, "Excuse me, where can I buy medicine?" "Medicine? Are you not feeling well?" "We have cold medicine here, and we also have a special lounge for you." "No, I have a situation and need to find a pharmacy." Are you on your period?" "We can also provide you with things you need urgently." Yi Qianqian was a little embarrassed. This Japanese restaurant service was too good. She couldn't possibly tell them that she hadn't used any protection last night and was going to the pharmacy to buy birth control pills now, could she? She hesitated for a moment and shook her head in embarrassment. She waved her hand and said, "Forget it." Under the astonished gaze of the waiter, Yi Qianqian returned to the private room dejectedly. Shenjilia had finished ordering. Yi Qianqian had just sat down when she heard a knock on the door. It was the same waitress from before. She came in and bowed before saying, "Miss, I asked my colleagues. There's a pharmacy nearby." Chapter 17:17. Yi Qianqian had the urge to kill the waitress. When she saw Shenjilia's face, she smiled awkwardly but didn't know what to say. What the hell? The waitress saw Yi Qianqian's embarrassment and immediately felt that she had done something wrong. He looked at Yi Qianqian with uncertainty and inquiry. Shenjilia also looked at Yi Qianqian with a questioning gaze. He asked, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? I'll take you to the hospital." "I'm fine." Yi Qianqian felt extremely awkward. "Didn't we have sex last night? I was thinking that we didn't take any safety precautions. It would be bad if I got pregnant. So, I wanted to find a pharmacy and buy a birth control pill to take." As she spoke, her cheeks became redder and redder. She looked at the waitress and asked, "Where is the pharmacy?" "We'll go and have a look after we finish eating." The waitress felt a little guilty. She thought for a moment and said, "It's at, no need." Shenjilia waved his hand. "Thank you. Go ahead. I need to buy some ointment." Yi Qianqian smiled kindly. The waitress gave her the address and left. "What medicine? It's not good for a woman's health. An abortion is even worse." Yi Qianqian picked up her teacup and took a sip. "It's better to be safe than sorry. You won't get pregnant even if you take it within 24 hours. Shenjilia pursed his lips and picked up his teacup to take a sip. It would be great if she really got pregnant. He would make sure that she gave birth to the child no matter what. A woman couldn't give birth to a child without a husband, could she? If everyone knew that she was pregnant and he proposed to her, she would be in a difficult position. She would have no choice but to comply. But such a despicable method could only be used once. It wasn't the right time yet. Just as Luo Ran had said, if he were to push her too hard, it might backfire. After eating, Yi Qianqian took Shenjilia to the pharmacy that the waitress had mentioned. It was a big pharmacy. It wasn't small. Yi Qianqian went straight in and asked the pharmacist inside to get the contraceptive pill. After taking it on the spot, she turned around and found that Shenjilia had disappeared. She called out to Shenjilia before he slowly walked out of the room. Yi Qianqian was still holding 2 Durex condoms in her hands. Her face turned red as she stared at them. It's not good to take medicine." Shenjilia placed it on the counter and pointed at Yi Qianqian. He took out his wallet and asked, "How much is it?" The receptionist glanced at Yi Qianqian before placing the condom on the bill. After paying the bill, Shenjilia carried the shopping bag, and Yi Qianqian walked in front. Suddenly, Yi Qianqian turned around. Shenjilia stopped in his tracks. Yi Qianqian seemed particularly shy that day. Her face was always pink. Shenjilia found her even more beautiful. He reached out and pinched her cheeks. "What's the matter? Let's not go back to the art gallery. The clay still needs to be baked anyway, and we can only color it tomorrow." "Where are we going?" "I'm sleepy. Let's go back to sleep." Shenjilia was actually very sleepy. He had been a little agitated the previous night and hadn't fallen asleep until after midnight. He had been woken up by such a troublesome matter early in the morning. When he heard this, Shenjilia nodded his head. "All right. Let's go." Yi Qianqian looked at Shenjilia. She then shifted her gaze down and grabbed the shopping bag. "I'll take it. Let's go." Chapter 17-18. Back at the hotel, Yi Qianqian took a shower before climbing into bed. However, Shenjilia was already fast asleep. He looked a little tired. Yi Qianqian quietly hid the condoms she had just bought. If Shenjilia asked her to do anything with him, she would just say that she didn't know where she had thrown the condoms. She wouldn't do it. After settling everything, Yi Qianqian covered him with the blanket and lay down with a yawn. He didn't sleep much last night, and neither did Yi Qianqian. All she could think about was what he had said. Getting married, meeting his parents, these weren't things they could do after confirming their relationship for just over half a month. Yi Qianqian felt that things were developing too quickly. The sense of security she had had was washed away by the rapid progress. Yi Qianqian felt that she was a little pretentious, but this was her first time in a relationship. Everything was very unfamiliar to her. Especially when she thought about how she had given all her firsts to him, and how Shenjilia was obviously experienced, she felt even more uncomfortable. After sleeping with him, he kept saying that he wanted to marry her. Yi Qianqian couldn't help but wonder if he said that to all his girlfriends. Because of these thoughts, she couldn't sleep until the middle of the night. When she sensed that Shenjilia had fallen asleep, she fell into a deep sleep. She was so sleepy that she pulled the blanket over her and closed her eyes. She slept until the evening. When Yi Qianqian woke up, Shenjilia's arms and legs were on top of her. She tossed his arms and legs away in disgust and stretched. Before she could even finish yawning, Shenjilia hugged her again. Not only did he hug her, but Shenjilia also moved his head over and rubbed it against her chest twice. Yi Qianqian wasn't wearing any underwear. When she was rubbed against, she shivered all over. She pushed his big head away with both hands and turned around. She exclaimed, "Go away. Do you think you're a little kid?" Shenjilia naturally noticed her sensitive reaction and looked at her with mischievous eyes. Yi Qianqian gritted her teeth and pushed his face away. She flipped over and quickly got off the bed. She scrambled out of the room. Shenjilia laughed out loud. His body reacted in the most realistic way. But looking at her like this, he guessed that she was traumatized. She could not even walk properly today. Don't push her too hard. Even a rabbit will bite when it's cornered. She's still a virgin. You have to hold it in no matter how much you want it. Don't give her a psychological scar. You'll lose more than you gain. Luo Rant's words were still echoing in his head. Shenjilia had to get up and open the window. The wind on the water brought along cool water vapor. It was very comfortable. It was past 6 in the evening. The sky wasn't completely dark yet, and the lights weren't fully lit either. Looking out, it was a different kind of scenery. Every moment can capture the beauty. Yi Qianqian's beauty was as boundless as the night. He was the same. One day, he would make her want him no matter what. Yi Qianqian stayed in Venice for 5 days. In those few days, she spent all her time admiring Venice. Since it was free travel, they returned to Huaxia after reaching an agreement. However, the time difference between China and Venice was difficult to adjust. It was 10:00 in the evening when they arrived in Kingstown. Coincidentally, it was a normal person's work and rest time. But at that time, they had just woken up. Yi Qianqian felt aggrieved when she thought of the time difference. Chapter 17-19. As soon as they got back, Shenjilia helped Yi Qianqian pack her suitcase while Yi Qianqian went straight to the bathroom to take a shower. After the shower, Yi Qianqian was in high spirits. As she dried her hair, she walked out and called out, "Shenjilia, it's still early. Let's go watch a movie." However, when he walked out, he found his suitcase in the middle of the living room. There were also 2 safety TS in the middle. Wasn't that the thing she had been hiding for days? Other than that night when Yi Qianqian took the initiative to do it with Shenjilia, she used this as an excuse to avoid him. Shenjilia was lying on the sofa playing with his phone. When he saw Yi Qianqian, he looked at her meaningfully and said, "Sure. Let's go watch a movie." Yi Qianqian was a little embarrassed. She laughed and said, "Let's go then. Put on your shoes. I'll go see what's so interesting." As he spoke, he walked over and kicked the suitcase with his foot. The suitcase immediately closed. Shenjilia could tell from her smile that her guilty conscience was asking for a beating. He got up, put on his shoes, and walked to the bathroom. He picked up his phone and sent a message to Luo Ran. "Shenjilia, there's a situation. I bought a few safety tanks a few days ago, but I couldn't find them. I thought I'd left them somewhere and forgot to take them. I didn't expect my girlfriend to hide them." Luo Ran was having a great time in the bar. The colorful lights were accompanied by the hot DJ, and he was dancing with hot beauties. He did not feel his phone vibrate at all. Shenjilia waited for a moment. When Luo Ran didn't reply, he put his phone away. Yi Qianqian chose a movie. It was a Disney blockbuster that had recently become very popular. Yi Qianqian had always been a fan of Disney. She asked Shenjilia for permission before she bought the tickets. Halfway through his computer, Shenjilia's cell phone suddenly rang. There weren't many people watching the late-night movie. Yi Qianqian was munching on popcorn and laughing as she watched the movie. Shenjilia leaned over and whispered, "I'm going out to take a call." Yi Qianqian glanced at it and saw 2 words clearly, Luo Ran. "Oh, go ahead." Shenjilia quickly left. Yi Qianqian wondered why the name Luo Ran sounded so familiar. By the time Shenjilia walked out, the line had already been cut off. When he called back, Luo Ran was very quiet. "Hey, what's going on?" Luo Ran was lying on the bed, feeling very comfortable. Shenjilia was about to speak when he heard a woman's voice. "Ran, I'm going to take a shower." "Okay, I'll wait for you." Luo Ran's voice was very gentle, and then there was the sound of kissing. Shenjilia was speechless. He knew that Yi Yuyu must have asked another girl out. If he wasn't at the hotel, then he was at the girl's house. "I say, can you calm down and find a girlfriend? Don't fool around outside all day. Be careful of getting sick." "Pfft. I only do it with women who look clean. How pure can a girl who goes to a bar be? Besides, I know how to take precautions. Forget it, let's not talk about this anymore. What's the situation with you? Didn't I tell you on WeChat just now? She's the one who hid the condoms. She's been rejecting me with the excuse that she doesn't want to take the medicine. Was it your girlfriend's first time with you?" "Yes." You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.